I'm Barbara, and I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. And the first thing I'd like to do is ask you to stand and pledge to our beautiful flag here.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That's a good beginning on a beautiful morning. I'd like to introduce Jackie Watkins over here, and she is the administrative assistant to Virginia Barker, and she's going to do roll call.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. All right, Don Dice.
Here.
Mark Schroep.
Here.
Richard Nipper is not here. Bruce Larson.
Here.
Kimberly Newton just told me she will be a few minutes late, but she will be here. Deb Harmon. Here. Laura Lee Thompson is not here. Nick Stanzoni.
Here.
Dick Bankhead.
Here.
Aaron Adams.
Here.
Kurt Smith.
Here.
Fred Goldstein.
Here.
Barbara Wall-Scanlon.
Here.
Eric Manis.
Here.
And our emeritus, John Windsor.
Here.
And Charles Venuto.
Here.
All right, we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Jackie. Okay, we'd like to have a motion to approve the agenda, but before that, Virginia has asked that we swap on Roman numeral 8, D before C, because it just makes logical sense in the presentation. So we're going to ask that the agenda be approved as amended. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? So moved. Okay, I'd like a motion to approve the minutes, if you've read them all.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
And a second.
Oh, we're rolling along, okay? Thank you. Okay, I'm going to first ask Virginia Barker, our director, to introduce the staff. We're varying a little bit from the presentations because I think everybody that's new would like to know who's here in the room. Virginia?
Okay, I will have staff introduce themselves, but I'm Virginia Barker. I'm the Director of Natural Resources.
Terry Breeden, the Environmental Section Supervisor for the Save Our Indian River Lagoon program.
Brandon.
Brandon Smith, Handle Communications.
Aaliyah Adaman, I am the project manager for the oyster projects.
Cole Stupy, Stormwater Engineer.
Abby Gehring, I help with the muck projects.
Anthony Gubler, I help with the wastewater projects.
And I am Lori Pierce, the fiscal analyst.
Joshua Hibbard, Contract Administrator.
Thank you very much.
We have two.
We also have Ashley Postlethwaite and Melanie Howater. They work on our homeowner programs for septic upgrades and quick connections. They're out today.
Okay. And our attorney, please.
Hi, I'm Heather Balser with the County Attorney's Office, and I believe that you all need to vote on the approval of agenda and minutes. Just kind of go.
Thank you.
I think you had a motion and a second, but not a vote. Correct?
Oh, thank you. That's why we have
Sorry,
you.
that's one of
Okay. All in favor of the agenda and the minutes as approved, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Is that good?
Sure, that's fine.
See, I do miss Vinny. He has chaired these meetings for so long, and I'm just stepping in for this one. Okay, I'd like to introduce the new committee members, and I think it might be appropriate to go around, starting with John Windsor, and introduce everyone and say if you're existing or if you're new, and just give me a brief understanding of who you are. And we know who you are, John, but go.
So I don't need to introduce myself.
Oh, yes, you do.
I'm not very new. I'm old, very old. John Windsor, I've been here since the beginning. I'm here in a new position as emeritus member, non-voting, I can't make motions, I can't do anything that's fun. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to try to help where necessary.
And you do. Thank you. And Aaron.
I'm Aaron Adams. I'm the Director of Science and Conservation for Bonefish Tarpon Trust, which is a nonprofit conservation organization. I spend a lot of time on the lagoon with the fishing community, and so I'm hoping to kind of bring some representation from that community to this process.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I'm Dick Bankhead. I'm just sitting here thinking, listening, and we just met, okay? And I think we're going to do well. So I'm just thinking which fly rod first. I'm from Cocoa and worked for Weyerhaeuser Pulp and Paper Timber Company 25 years and live on St. John's.
Thank you. Okay, Fred.
I'm Fred Goldstein. I'm the Economics and Finance alternate. I am a healthcare executive, having run hospitals and health plans, founding my own company. I moved here exactly 3 years and 1 month to the day to Merritt Island, so really enjoy it down here and excited to be involved.
We're happy to have you.
I'm an old timer, right?
I'm Kurt Smith. I was first elected to the county commission back in 2014, retired in 2022. I was on the original Indian River Lagoon Council National Estuary Program way back in 2015. Served there as a two-time chair. Served as a two-time chair in the commission, and love to be here. Still adding something to the program.
And help to instigate this program. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi there. I'm Mark Schroep. I am new. Let's see. I was born in Miami, grew up in Orlando. I've been here for about 25 years now, been in Melbourne. And I am the director of something called Schmidt Marine Technology Partners, which is part of the Schmidt Family Foundation. And we fund development of ocean technology and lots of water-related things.
Wonderful.
Don Dice, I'm the science member now, and I was technology alternate, so I've been around a while.
And you were new last year, right? Were you 1 year, right, okay. And I'm Barbara Wall-Scanlon, and I'm in a very uncomfortable position because I don't like doing this. But I'm going to wing it and try and remember when I taught school about 40 years ago. But I've been in Florida forever and a native, and I just love the lagoon, and I'm so happy to be here and be contributing. Thank you.
I'm Eric Manis. I'm the real estate alternate, and I am also a native. That's about it.
Bruce Larson. I am the technology alternate. I grew up in Indian River, on the Indian River, basically. I don't think I probably spent more time in the water than at my home. My family moved here 52 years ago, and I left home to serve in the military and then work abroad. We lived overseas for 20 years, but the river's been very passionate, challenging environment for everybody. And I've spent time in water and wastewater industry as well as in technology and seen many different projects over my years. This is the next generation of what we need here. So, thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you.
I'm Deb Harmon. I am the Education Outreach and Advocacy alternate. My husband and I moved to Brevard County in 2014 because of the lagoon, and we live in Indian Harbor Beach near Barbara, actually, just off the Banana River. And my passion in water, I worked in the industry in water quality and consulting for several decades before I retired here the first time, but retirement didn't stick. I went back to work. I've been active in the business community here and in advocacy efforts to help with the funding and also to educate the public about the challenges we have and why we need to continue to have their support. And I'm excited to be here, and I think that I'm very proud of the work that all of you have done who've been existing members. New member, happy to be here and hope to continue that progress.
Glad to have you. Yes.
Good morning. I'm Nicholas Sanzone. I'm your tourism alternate. I've grown up in Brevard County my whole life, born at Holmes Regional just down the street. Wore many hats in many different parts of lagoon restoration, science, education, outreach, and tourism. Currently sit as the Brevard Marine Advisory Council Chair in this very room. and also the Indian River Lagoon National Scenic Byways Chair. And I think there's a lot that we can do to educate the folks that come to our area about the great work that's going on. I was part of the Blue Shirts 10 years ago with the Marine Resources Council when I worked for them that helped get this all started. And I'm really proud and honored to be part of this great team and all the work you've done, so thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Charlie Benito. I'm also the emeritus member. I think that's a nice way of saying roll, John, but it does have a little, the Latin part of it. So I worked most of my career at the Kennedy Space Center as an environmental professional, and been on the committee since it started, and I hope I can offer some advice and guidance to the new members, but it looks like we've got a really good group here.
Thank you, Charlie.
So just before we get to your next business item, which again requires voting, right? Since we have 2 voting members that are absent today, Bruce and Deb, you're both voting when alternates are voting when their voting members are not here. And that's why we ask everybody to be here all the time, so you're ready to step in. And obviously, you're always a part of all the conversation. I think Terry will cover that more later on the agenda. But before you get to your next agenda item.
Which is my favorite part.
Yes.
Okay, we're voting on a new chair. So how about that? So I'll take nominations from the floor for chairman. And I have a nomination. I'd like to nominate Don Dice for chair. You'll accept? Any other nominations from the floor?
So Virginia, since Laura Lee's not here, do I get to second?
Yes. Yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I didn't,
Well, then I'll second that motion.
Great, okay.
sorry, doing bad, quick math.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then the nominations for chair are closed. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And I'm sure there's none opposed. Hey, I don't have a gavel. You get it? Just switch seats, okay. So I'm going to open it up for nominations for vice chair. Is there anyone who'd like to volunteer to be vice chair? You don't have to do it very often. It's just like me, every once in a while. Any nominations for vice chair?
Can alternates nominate?
No.
I don't think so. Who do you want to?
Yeah, you can suggest.
How about Dick? Would you like to be vice chair?
Excuse me?
May I nominate you, Dick, for vice chair?
That's what I get for talking to a friend.
That's it. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. Any other nominations? Okay, all in favor? Nominations are closed. Now, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Dick, congratulations. Don, you are switching seats and taking over. Do you want me to show you how to work this?
So excited just to be here.
Wow. Here we go. So next are the progress reports. Terry, take it away.
Virginia's going to do it. I'm just going to scroll.
She's going to help me. So, good morning. So March, always spring, very busy time of the year. We completed our 101st project, the Cocoa Beach McNabb Outfall Retention Project. We sent notices of funding to all of the new projects that the committee had recommended that were added in the 2025 update to the project plan. We completed 15 more quick connects to sewer and 8 more upgrades of septic. And oyster monitoring by the University of Central Florida just continues to bring great news. So At 3 months, the Turkey Creek offshore project, which is one of the biggest projects that we have out there, is just covered in live oysters. So 2,820 per square meter on average. You know, our target was 100 per square meter. So at 3 months, it's just covered in little baby oysters. And some of them have grown incredibly fast. So 22% of them are already adult size, you know, potentially reproductive. So on the other hand, the McNabb project, where we tried out a whole bunch of different strata and mechanisms for oyster habitat, the prisms have not done so well. They're down to 7 oysters per square meter. The prisms that were seeded with gardened oysters, the prisms that were seeded with oyster spat from the hatchery, they're doing a little better at 95 oysters per square meter. And then the gabions that were seeded with spat on shell are a little over that 100 target at 111. We've executed 2 more contracts for projects and completed 2 more videos that you'll see later on your agenda today. On leaky lateral repairs of people's private sewer lines, we're at 97% complete, 704 out of 740. The South Central C septic to sewer is at 147 out of 152 homeowners connected. We're pushing for those last 5. South Beaches A, we've connected 1 more, so we're at 2 out of 37 connections complete. MICO, we're still waiting for the contractor to provide acceptable as-builts that we can submit to DEP to close out the permits for project completion so that we can send out letters to everybody that the project is ready for them to connect to. Continued progress on the design of other septic sewer projects. So we have 5 that are now in the bid queue. Stormwater projects, we have 3 under construction: Flounder, West Arlington, and Pioneer Road. Huntington moving forward through design. Vegetation harvesting for the season has begun at Kelly Park. O'Galley muck dredging, we're negotiating with the sole bidder, who was Gator Dredging. Grand Canal just resumed dredging after being shut down for manatee closure season. They just resumed on Wednesday. Titusville Causeway Multi-Trophic Restoration and Living Shoreline Resiliency Project. I'm getting better at saying that. They are over 2/3 done placing those wave attenuation devices, and they've started removing the riprap from the shoreline, and will be replacing sand and then planting the shoreline. And then, you know, when the dust is settled, they'll be planting 4 acres of seagrass and installing 1 million clams. We've got contracting underway for another 7 projects there. Grant reimbursements underway for about 5 projects. Then on the other side, busy month with presentations. Ashley, who's not here today, she worked at Orlando Wetlands Festival. They contacted us and we said, it's Orlando, you know, we're really focused on Brevard. And they said, oh, no, we get tons of Brevard people at our event. You should be here. So we went, and she was slammed with hundreds of people every day. Even if they're Orlando people, they come over here to recreate, fish in the lagoon. But lots of the locals go to that event. So that was a good thing for us to do. Brandon worked World Seagrass Day at the zoo. Melanie and Brandon also went to Country Walk HOA during the filming of the Flip My Florida Yard earlier this month. I got to speak to the Titusville Rotary Club yesterday, and I get to speak to the American Water Resources Association technical meeting next week. Upcoming science forums and public events, there's a lot of great stuff. So IFAS is holding their annual Florida Friendly Landscaping Seminar. MRC is starting a new thing called Afternoon on the Lagoon for adults and children, anybody who wants to get out there and get their feet wet and learn more about the lagoon, plant a mangrove. Orca continues with their One Health fish monitoring and training for that. And the Indian River Lagoon Coalition is partnering with EGAD to celebrate the lagoon with arts and music in the Eau Gallie Arts District. And then the National Estuary Program is partnering with DEP on a What's Up in the Watershed that is specializing on horseshoe crab nesting in the Indian River Lagoon. Then I wanted to just skip down to the bottom, the future topics for special presentations. So we're always looking multiple meetings ahead for what topics should be brought to the committee and what sort of speakers we need to line up. It's, it takes time to get on people's agendas, especially if they have to travel. So if you have ideas or topics that you want, the list is much longer. We just sort of put the top ones that will fit on the page per your guidelines. This report, this monthly report, is limited to one piece of paper so that we don't spend too long on it. So the list is, we keep track of a lot more of your topics of interest, and the top ones are what hits this list. So that's my report.
Question.
Chair.
Sure.
I know we have this section and then the progress reports and then other things for new business, so I'm not quite sure where I'm suggesting this. I think it would be helpful to us in the future or just to have a meeting on commerce. It looks like it's just a new topic and it's, we're tagged with that. And it would be helpful to have a discussion on that and talk about goals, definition, resources, and timing. And y'all got a huge amount of data now on what the impact would be. But it'd be helpful I think, to Aaron and myself. Again, I apologize not knowing exactly where to put that.
This is a good time as any to mention them. To mention topics. It's a good time as any to mention any topics on your mind right now.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate your tolerance.
Just one quick comment on the April 12th Waterway Warriors event. We're looking for volunteers. We're going to pull out about 100 tires from over near Cocoa Beach. And thanks to Virginia, the Mosquito Control Board, and Waterway Warriors, and I think the city of Cocoa is involved. It's going to be quite a fun effort. So if you want to join us, please do.
Then it will no longer be Tire City. Where will we go? Yeah, by the way, you can follow in the agenda. What Virginia just went through is in the agenda. So follow through. And now that we have the financial report coming up, you can follow that through too.
Mr. Chair, could I ask a question? Virginia, is there a mechanism for the committee members to put in a request for a topic online or directly with staff when I think about it outside the meeting?
We did set up something on the website, Brandon.
Yeah, we had previously had a link for committee members to submit suggestions, but it was never used. So I think, the easiest is just to email myself, Virginia, we can, any questions, we'll get those.
And so, we'll take ideas any way you give them to us, but it's actually best to bring them up in this meeting and sort of get concurrence from the group that, yes, that's something that you would all really like to hear. It's a priority. That helps us know how soon to try to slot it in.
Yeah, and also previous presentations are on the website. They're categorized according to subject, and just a great wealth of information there. But I'm sure we're going to have to go over presentations again and update new people on the committee right now. So, next is a financial
Don,
report.
Before you move on, I'd like to offer a topic if everyone's interested.
Go ahead.
The Scenic Byways gives presentations on the byway and through tourism to connect us to the other welcome centers and tourism agencies across the lagoon. If a presentation is requested, we would be loving to give it from the Scenic Byways. And also to invite everyone to the meetings every other month.
Thank you. All right, now we're ready for the financial report. That's okay. It's all in your agenda here, so.
Good morning. We have received $4.8 million for our December collections and $3.8 million in our quarterly discretionary. The total revenue from consumption is $443 million. For the monthly statement, the anticipated $504 million in revenue. By the end of the fiscal year, the actuals received so far are $404 million. And for the expenditures this fiscal year, the total assigned projects and programs is $84 million, and the actual spent is $7.3 million. Okay. Any questions or anything?
The different set of financials, than I'm used to. Nothing wrong with it. Very good. Very impressive. There's somewhere we tie it down to, and maybe not in this meeting, but each of the many projects, how they're doing specifically. Is there somewhere I could look for that, or?
We have quarterly ones that we do, and we did one last month. The quarterly was done last
Okay.
month, which we do for the grants, and then we also do for the projects. So the next one will be, I think, in May.
Okay.
So that's when we'll have the breakdown, and you'll
You'd
get
have like
that.
the muck and each one?
Yes, it will.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Quarterly?
Quarterly, yes.
And some of it is in here, too.
Some of it's in here.
This is.
Yes.
But it's also on the website, too, right? Yeah, it is on the website,
Okay, I
too, that
didn't
you
know
can
that.
get last month, yes.
You could also review last month's meeting if you weren't here, if you weren't able to see that yet. It's online in many locations. You could actually watch it presented.
Yeah, I was here last month, but
Okay,
I'm
great.
a little slow. Thanks.
That's okay, we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Fred.
Mr. Chair, is there any, I know you budgeted out the year, looked through the percentages, thanks for sending the Excel sheet. Is there any concern with the drop in economic activity that might impact your revenue? And on the secondary approach, is there any concern that the tariffs might impact your construction projects?
Yes and yes. So at the top of this sheet, sorry, if you can scroll back up to the revenues. Nope. At the top of the yellow sheet. You see that the percent in the first row there, the taxes, the percent earned is 24.87%. That is on the first quarter of revenues received. So we are very, very close, slightly below, but very, very close to 25% collected on our revenues so far. We watch that very, very closely, and we were fairly conservative in our projections for the last 2 years of the incoming revenue. But yes, I agree with you that, the things that are going on out there could negatively impact our revenue projections and increase our costs with, supply chain issues again.
Is the tax revenue, is that generally a seasonal thing, or do you kind of expect 25% in each quarter?
September is usually really slow. December, Christmas is usually really good. So yes, spring break, we have loads of tourists. We usually, do well in the spring.
Okay.
Well, any indication of driving right now on the roads, we're doing very well.
Yeah, I wish they would drive better, but yes.
Could you specifically, in regard to tariffs, are there any protocols that you guys are watching for specifically, or are you just kind of wait and see still until we get a little further in?
There's nothing that we can do about it, right? It will impact our project costs, however it impacts our project costs. We have the 5% contingency set aside, our rainy day fund, so we will come to you if we need to.
So Virginia, obviously, we're 8 years into this program, and we have had economic challenges over the course of those years. Besides the contingency plan, are there other strategies that you found to be successful before in managing through these times that we should be aware of?
I guess the biggest strategy has been to be very aggressive in seeking grants. And we have used those grants successfully to bridge the gap between what we had budgeted with swirl funds and what projects were actually costing. A number of times that has been insufficient, and we've come back to the committee with requests to dip into that contingency fund. Sometimes we're ready to move forward with a project and we've applied for grants, but we don't have an answer yet, or we've been told we're getting the grant, but we don't have it in contract yet. So we've come to the committee, can you front money from the contingency, but we won't in the end, long enough for us to award the contract. But by the time we're actually paying for construction, we should have the grant contract and it'll all work out. So if you look in the, actually, Terry, can you look at how much we've actually spent of contingency? It's only been a few $100,000 actually spent.
Yeah,
But it's been millions that have been approved, as a temporary or if we need it basis.
Thank you.
Virginia, about grants, is there anything that's frozen right now that isn't going through?
So we had 2 federal appropriations from the previous session that they were considered earmarks, and none of those earmarks were included in the continuing resolution that Congress just approved. And so, that's not just a problem for us, that's a problem for everybody across the nation. Congressman Herodopoulos is already working with us on resubmitting those for this upcoming session. So, we're hopeful that we will get those funds, but a year later than anticipated. And we also had projects that we were proposing for federal funding this year. I don't know whether he'll be able to ask for all of that or whether, everything will be sort of delayed a year because of this change.
Thank you.
Yeah, it has not impacted our state grants, and the majority of our grants are state grants.
Mr. Chair, just one more point, is I love to dig into this stuff. So I was digging into tourism, and you may be aware of this, but Canada is the #1 tourist for the United States and #1 in Florida. And they've been cutting flights. One of the travel agencies said their bookings are down 85%. I'm not sure how much come here, but I know South Florida is expecting to be impacted by that as well. I assume that would hit our sales tax revenue too.
Good point.
okay, thank you.
All right, we're going to get a little bit of education here. Terry's going to start.
I am going, excuse me, I'm going to go over the welcome letter and orientation checklist that everybody received. Everybody should have gotten this except for maybe John and Charlie, because this wasn't a thing when you first started. But we started this letter to orient all of the new committee members on the materials that are available and to get you up to speed on the rules and regulations of the committee. So the first 2 links on here are our website and the Citizen Oversight Committee website. Brandon's going to go over these in a bit. And then next we have the Florida Sunshine, and that is what Heather is going to talk about. And then I'm going to go over these next few documents. Brandon's going to talk about getting your COC bios and videos recorded to put up on our social media. And then on the second page, we have our tentative typical schedule. So January, we usually go over the project plan update recommendation that then goes to the county commission in February. In February, we also go over quarterly progress reports and financial updates. March, we just did the election of chair and vice chair. We don't have scheduled business for April, but we do have special presentations every month. So next month, we have a presentation on the Lagoon overview, harmful algal blooms, and the status of the seagrass scheduled. May, we'll go over the quarterly project reports and then the schedule for the new project proposals for the rest of the year. June is typically canceled because there's no county commission meeting that month. July, we'll go over the annual cost share eligibility. August is quarterly project updates again. And then October, we have the next year meeting calendar, so you can get that scheduled. November is when we go over all the project requests and also do quarterly project updates as well. December is usually canceled so that you have time to review the new plan update, and then we start all over with January again. Okay?
Thank you.
So to start, we're going to go over the ordinance. This is the ordinance for Brevard County, ordinance on advisory boards and committees. So the document starts off here with just simplifying the schedule for these meetings. They kind of consolidated them down. It goes into the definitions and provisions. I have highlighted here where things that are important for us. The key takeaways here are that the advisory board, here we go. The advisory board shall serve no more than 8 consecutive years or 10 years in a 16-year period. So that's why we have this shift right now with the new committee members. And then the other big thing is absences. Any appointee who is absent half of the scheduled meetings in a calendar year that take place after their appointment shall be dismissed from their appointment. So attendance is very important. This meeting and advisory boards listed on the county website. And 2 kinds of public comment should be taken. Relevant comment when the advisory board takes a final vote on any given issue, and any new business issues. And the public should be given at least 3 minutes to speak on that. I just put all of these into one PDF so we can just keep scrolling. But I do recommend going in and reading the whole document. Next, we have our ground rules. This is pretty simple. So be prepared, engender trust, respect each other and others' ideas, honor time limits, conduct meetings so that no one person dominates, listen as allies, don't interrupt, and wait to be recognized before speaking. Next, we have guidance for ensuring compliance with intent of the referendum. So the intent of the referendum is for additional projects critical to lagoon restoration or to accelerate the implementation of projects that are not yet fully funded. So project funds, and this is in the contract of our Sorrel contracts, project funds saved must be reallocated to other projects benefiting the restoration of the Indian River Lagoon. And they must guarantee maintenance will occur to deliver the nutrient reduction benefits proposed in the project applications. Also in the contracts, we include the project schedule of acceleration with the receipt of the available trust fund dollars. So they say if this project was already scheduled to be happening faster because the funds are available for it, or if it's happening, so it's yeah. Okay, next we have our bylaws. The role of the Oversight Committee will be to review monitoring data on timeliness of project delivery, actual and updated project costs, and actual nutrient removal effectiveness. Review new literature and local studies on the types of projects included in the plan and potential alternative project types. Evaluate alternative project proposals received from the community and recommend annual adjustments to the plan, including Table 46, the timeline for funding needs. Table 46 is now the rainbow table is what we call it, so it's the big table in your plan. The Oversight's role is oversight. The Oversight Committee forwards its annual report to the Board of County Commissioners in February. The mission of the Oversight Committee ensures transparent implementation of the Save Our Indian River Lagoon project plan and expense of the Save Our Indian River Lagoon Trust Fund for the public, and recommends plan updates to the Board of County Commissioners. This includes review of fiscal decision documents, project and program progress reports, evaluation of timeliness and cost-effectiveness performance, consideration of alternative actions, and recommendation for project plan amendments. The primary duties are to keep informed, be prepared, review budget documents, review documents generated by members of the Oversight Committee, staff, and others, help drive innovation, and recommend updates to the SORL project plan. Some of this is a little redundant, but it's important. Expectations engender public trust by your actions and conduct. Communicate informatively with each other, special interests, and the public. Maintain a balance between costs, benefits, feasibility, risk, and timeliness. Understand the implications and outcomes of alternative projects being considered. Appreciate the significance of projects for stakeholders and represent their interests. Strive to resolve conflicts and seek consensus, and be advocates for broad support of the outcomes being pursued by the Save Our Indian River Lagoon project plan as amended. So if you are invited to attend meetings of outside organizations with similar missions or scope, the committee may vote to appoint one or more members to represent the Citizen Oversight Committee at that meeting. The director is the proper point of contact for such invitations and is responsible for ensuring compliance with the advertisement, agenda, minutes, recording, and public comment. So Heather will go more into sunshine, but this kind of goes into that a little bit. Yep, that's sunshine. Terms end on the last day of February. The chair and vice chair are elected annually in March, as we just did. The Natural Resources Management Director is the technical advisor of the Save Our Indian River Lagoon program, and she is to provide the one-page monthly status report and communicate the recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners. Jackie is our executive secretary, and she notifies the Oversight Committee members of the meetings and prepares the agenda and minutes and also performs other duties. The Oversight Committee holds regular meetings. We meet the third Friday of the month. The meeting times are 8:30 to 11:30 and can be extended beyond these 3 hours by vote at that meeting. The primary members are the voting members. Should a primary member be absent or recused for a stated conflict of interest, the alternate member from the same field or expertise becomes the voting member. 5 members make a quorum. And then again, on public comment, the public can make general comments on matters under the purview of the Citizen Oversight Committee for 3 minutes. The intent of public comment is to ensure the Oversight Committee hears all viewpoints. The committee is not required to answer questions or engage in back and forth dialogue with the speaker, but may do so if the chair decides. So that is that. Moving on to the SORL ordinance. This is the big one. Let me get to where we are. Okay, so the estuary is an estuary of national significance. It was nominated in 1990 and is included in the Lagoon National Estuary Program. The Board of County Commissioners concludes that the Indian River Lagoon is a public facility, and because it is a public facility, Florida statutes authorize the use of the half-cent discretionary local government infrastructure sales tax for capital improvement projects, which include capital maintenance such as muck removal and projects with a lifespan of 5 years or longer, such as projects to reduce primary sources of pollution, including excess fertilizer, septic systems, nutrient-rich reclaimed water, and stormwater, to remove historical pollution that is now accumulated in muck deposits that smother seagrass, cloud the water column, release nutrients, and deplete oxygen, and to restore natural stabilization and filtration systems. So this includes oyster bars and living shorelines. So the SORL plan is based off of quite a few comprehensive plans, and Virginia's going to touch on this in a minute, but we've got the Brevard County Comprehensive Plan, the Indian River Lagoon Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan, also known as the CCMP. We have the Point Source Discharges Action Plan, On-Site Sewage Treatment and Disposal Plan, Freshwater Discharges Action Plan, Seagrass Protection Plan, Wetlands Action Plan, Fisheries Action Plan, Public Involvement and Education Action Plan, So this goes into a little bit of the history on how we got here. So in January through March 2016, Brevard County residents endured the most extensive and intensive algal bloom ever recorded in the Indian River Lagoon system during winter and spring months. The collapse of this bloom in March resulted in one of the most extensive fish kills ever recorded in the county. The winter-spring 2016 bloom followed an algal superbloom that occurred in 2011, brown tides that have followed in 2012, 2013, and 2015, and unusual mortality events for dolphins, manatees, and pelicans. So in March of that year, the Board of County Commissioners voted to send a letter to the governor requesting assistance, and the county was advised to develop a project plan to include a comprehensive list of projects to restore lagoon health, estimate the funding needs of those projects, and determine a timetable for project implementation. So in April, the County Commission directed staff to develop the Save Our Lagoon plan to restore the health of the lagoon. The proposed project plan included a portfolio of projects to reduce primary sources of pollution, remove historical pollution that is now accumulated in muck deposits that smother seagrass, cloud the water column, release nutrients, and deplete oxygen, restore natural stabilization and filtration systems, and a process to monitor project implementation, efficiency, and cost effectiveness with a volunteer citizen oversight committee to respond to monitoring data, new technology, changing conditions, alternative project proposals, and recommend plan revisions to the County Commission annually. So this was the ballot language that was presented to the voters. They were given the yes or no option to restore the Indian River Lagoon through financing, planning, constructing, maintaining, and operating capital improvements and capital maintenance projects and programs designed to improve water quality, fish, wildlife, and marine habitat, remove muck and reduce pollution. Shall an ordinance be approved levying a half-cent sales tax for 10 years and requiring deposit of all revenue to a Save Our Lagoon Trust Fund solely for such projects, with citizen committee oversight and annual independent audits. And this was voted very largely yes by the community. So this tax is collecting for a period of 10 years. It started January 1, 2017, and will collect through December 31, 2026. And it goes into that trust fund to be used for those projects. Oh yeah, here we go. This is it. So here's going over the Citizen Oversight Committee. The intent of this volunteer committee is of diversely skilled citizens would be to recommend updates to the SORL plan to the Board of County Commissioners annually and to provide public oversight and a transparent process that not only allows but fosters development and implementation of better, less costly, and/or more timely tools and techniques for restoration of the Indian River Lagoon. So the committee's made up of 7 representatives and 7 alternates. Last year, there was a little bit of change, so we have science, technology, economics, finance, real estate, education, outreach, and lagoon advocacy have been combined. And we have tourism, and then we have lagoon, commerce, and then we have the non-voting emeritus seats. So that's your structure now. Appointments will be for 2-year terms, after which time members and alternates may be considered for reappointment or replacement. Your responsibilities are to verify the sources of water quality pollution and keeping up with technological advancements. It is important for maximizing timely and cost-effective solutions. As projects from the plan are implemented, the actual costs and nutrient reduction benefits will be tracked. This is presented in the quarterly reports. Brevard County staff will provide project monitoring reports to the Oversight Committee and will work with them to recommend adjusting the planned projects as needed. The role of the Oversight Committee will be to review monitoring data on timeliness of project delivery, actual and updated project costs, and actual nutrient removal effectiveness, review new literature and local studies on the types of projects included in the plan and potential alternative project types, evaluate alternative project proposals received from the community, that's what happens in November, and recommend annual adjustments to the plan, including Table 46, again, the rainbow table. The committee's recommendations will be presented by the chair and department staff to the county commissioners for the inclusion, modification, or non-inclusion into the Save Our Indian River Lagoon plan. I think that is And I know that's a lot, but that was a history and all the rules and everything that we need to follow.
That's great.
Are there any questions?
Yeah.
Jared, Terry, I got a question regarding the future of the plan. Is there any part of the plan that talks about us advocating for the community to pass the tax again at the end of '26?
So as staff, we cannot advocate for a tax.
As the community member, that's something that we,
That's in the bailiwick of the county commission.
okay.
They will do it.
That's not like the arm of the education and outreach members to assist or help with that?
So you can openly communicate about what is being accomplished with the funds and what the lagoon needs, to be informative.
Okay, let's be informative. That sounds
Chair.
good.
Mr. Chair, may I ask?
Yes.
I would love to follow up more with that because I would like some guidelines as well. And I know as I've talked with the coalition about some different upcoming events and opportunities in the community, I would definitely like some designations of where I can or can't. And I know we have the pre-approval for any events that we would attend as a SORA member. So I know that's in place and there could be kind of a filter there as well to say, oh no, don't say that, don't go there. We have to do this first if you do. But I would definitely appreciate some guidelines on how we can do that.
Okay, I'm going to repeat that just to make sure, because I've been asked this like everybody else 10, 20 times, how come we aren't promoting for the next tax? So as members, we can promote what we're doing, but are we saying we cannot promote the tax?
So I think as part of your role, like your official role on this committee, Terry just kind of went over, you were
Yeah.
covered under that ordinance that was passed in 2016, and those are your duties and your role as part, your official role as part of this committee. Obviously, you're also private citizens, you have lots of interests. As citizens who happen to be members of this committee, you can obviously talk to your commissioner, and other groups out there. I think the distinction is not to be representing the Citizen Oversight Committee as your role with making changes to the project plan and all of that when you're advocating. There just needs to be a little bit of a distinction there.
So we, as a member of this group, I'm just repeating to be sure.
Yeah.
As a member of this group, we can obviously advocate what we're doing. I'm very proud of it.
Right, if you get a question, say, about what you've been doing, then certainly, this is the
But we can't
record,
say,
but.
we can't give in that same presentation that we should all work to X and X fly rod for the tax.
You've got to speak towards the microphone.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
You should speak towards the microphone.
Oh, I apologize. Sorry,
Yeah,
thank you.
We're acting as a
It's on.
committee here.
Yeah, I'm on. Sorry.
I think it's more as a private citizen's
Okay.
opinion
Okay.
would be the approach.
Thank you for the question.
And Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, if I could just, oh, sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead. And again, being out there and sharing about the accomplishments and the advocacy in general, I mean, that in and of itself speaks for the good and the benefit for continuing the tax, continuing the promotion of that. As we share in our groups, I think a lot of that is to, social groups, like personal, as a citizen, not a member of Sorrel. I think a lot of that speaks for itself, too. So I would hope that as we continue, and, I personally, you guys who've been here all know I get really excited when we have things that I personally advocate for. That transfers and that carries over, and that stands for itself again to really say this is a service that is being used correctly and something that we should continue. So I think your questions are great. Thank you for prompting the conversation, Nick, you too. But as you are here for a minute, I think that you'll really find it's very easy to get into the how to go about that. It's been very accommodating in the years that I've been here to questions and then event specific, and as we go out, that we get that information month to month as well with different things that are coming up, so.
Well, I think it's an excellent question, because I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm asked all the time, how come we aren't out promoting that? I mean, TV or whatever, so
Right, so,
thank you.
so staff cannot promote it. We can't use the half-cent sales tax to, buy advertising space on a billboard or those sorts of things. So just, I think you have to differentiate between being informative versus being advocates,
Okay.
right?
Thank
But,
you.
but as Heather explained, when you take your COC hat off and you're just a citizen, you can.
Yeah, and
Say
included
which
in
one.
your package is this right here.
I saw it.
And it's excellent as far as promoting, what the plan has done, what the program has done. And inside is just a wealth of information that nobody stops to read, that you can explain to them where the money goes and what happens and where we're at in the program. And that's the things that you should be promoting, where we're at in the program.
Mr. Chair, a question, probably for Heather. I teach at the University of Mississippi Medical Center in their master's program, and so when I do a presentation, I have to put up a disclaimer. This is not representing the university. If I put a disclaimer up when I'm talking to a group, is that okay? This is not representing the COC, it's my own personal opinions?
I'm sorry, I did not catch the end of that. I'm sorry, can you repeat
If
that?
I'm doing a presentation or talking to a group, and if I say this is not in my role as on the COC, but it's my personal opinion, can I then discuss the tax or not? Or should I just steer clear?
Do you want time to put together a
Perhaps.
memo?
Yeah.
Right, and I don't, if you were to do anything, I think a verbal disclaimer, I don't think you'd have to put something in writing
Okay.
every time, but, yeah. Let me get back to you on that.
Thank you.
So,
Charlie?
Yeah, Don, I think what you were saying about the flyer we have and other resources of educational material, I think providing that to the public without having to advocate, like you need to vote for the next Sorrel 2.0. I think it's pretty self-evident when you look through this, for at least most reasonable people, that they would say this is a good thing and we need to continue doing that, which would be very safe then. I don't think you would be treading in bad waters.
Yeah, and as we always say, there's a lot more things that have to be done. And so that's really the reason for continuing. Yeah.
I was just going to ask if maybe it made sense to provide some of the PowerPoint slides and stuff like that that we've done with public conversation or something. Maybe that would benefit the folks that are hazy on what they can and can't say.
You'd like from Straight Talk?
Any of the presentations. I know that I've seen Virginia give one at the pool in Cocoa Beach. That one. And that's the one I've seen, and it had a lot of good information that is apparently okay for staff and members of the COC to give.
All right, ready to move on, Heather? Right. Yes.
Maybe we're going to cover it later or even in another month, but I didn't see it on the upcoming agenda. Very similar to what we're just talking about here, the advocating and what the future is. So to be specific, who drafts the language for the next ballot initiative? We haven't done this again. We've only done it the once, and it was 10 years ago. So who drafts that? Who sponsors it? Who champions it? What's our role in championing that? Aside, we've already done our annual report. That will be the last one that is consequential in getting it before the ballot. We won't have a next plan next year before it'll already be ballot time. So I guess my question is who drafts that language, who champions it, who sponsors it? Is it all a commission thing, or is it, what is our role?
So right, we've only done it once. The county commission directed staff to prepare a plan, draft the ordinance, come up with the ballot language. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were standing there. And so the county attorney's office worked with us on drafting that language. We also worked with community members on, coming up with that language, and then the board, the county commission approved the ballot language.
And do we think that that same ballot language needs to be updated, or is that our purview to address here? Because it's certainly a decade on, and we had crises events, and we haven't seen the recurrence of those, and there is a change in the lagoon. But there's also been a change in the environment and water table and the water column, that maybe the specifics of it aren't really there, but it's not. If we had a crisis event that was the impetus to vote for it, and the public doesn't see that that has had such a crisis event since, do we change that language? Is that our purview to make recommendations to the commission?
Can I put that in the memo?
I think it might be a good idea to maybe prepare something about the process, about how it was implemented last time and how a future one might be implemented, if that would help.
Yeah, that'd be great. I just think, while it seems far off, it's not. It's maybe 2 more meetings, and if we're not started, it's not going to happen.
And it's pretty complicated.
I'm sorry?
It's a pretty complicated process.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah.
It would be good to have either a.
There were citizen advocates that offered to fund a survey of the community, and the Trust for Public Lands offered to do that survey. They don't conduct those surveys in the community unless they are authorized by the county commission to do so. So the board was asked to approve that, and they did. And that survey also helped with the ballot language and, what the public would want the funds to be spent on, or, limited how the funds should be spent. So that's not what the process has to be, but that's what the process was last time.
Thank you both.
Okay, I'm pretty soft-spoken, so just tell me if I need to speak up. Okay, so I'm going to go over Government in the Sunshine. I will run through this pretty quickly. It's really just to kind of give you an overview. If there's any specific questions, it's really great when things come up in your personal lives. It's very personal to you. There's some general rules, but then we'll get into a little bit of ethics and voting conflicts. And just, if you have any questions, just call me. I'll just say that, because as things come up, like with the discussion we're already having, I'm happy to have a one-on-one. I've spoken to Fred before. He even started about it, and we can go into more detail. So Sunshine Law is really just a short term, or a shortening of Government in the Sunshine. Florida has very broad, very open government. So it just means that the public has a right to access to governmental proceedings. And it's so important in our state that it is actually in our Constitution as well as in our statutes. So as the county commission conducts all of its business in the public with duly noticed meetings as an advisory board working for the county commission, all of these rules also apply to you. All right, so I'm going to go over the statute. There are 3 basic requirements for our meetings. They must be open to the public, reasonable notice must be given, and minutes must be taken. And it is considered a meeting when 2 or more of you get together to discuss something that's business of this board. So, and it's foreseeable, right? Something you might vote on. It mostly will be project plan, things like that. That's what you're going to be voting on, right? Is money. So if you are in, well, we'll get to more details, but that's the basic magic language. Is you can't discuss outside of these official meetings anything that you might vote on here. Okay. So again, 2 or more members, what is communication, right? It's not just a one-on-one. It can also be texting, phone calls, social media interaction,
really want to avoid that. That's not a great idea to have a discussion online. So everything is covered, right? All communication between you. And we've had this in the past, and you can send out a paper position statement, an email to the group. It's not encouraged because it can lead to issues, but you can do it as long as there's no reply all and a back and forth. But if you have something that is a substantial document that you would like everybody to take a look at before the meeting, you can send it. It's just there cannot be any interaction over it until you get here.
Can I just interject something? Just as a word of caution, if any of you had the idea that you want to do a blanket email or communication, it would just be wise to give a quick call to Heather and just say, listen, I'm thinking about doing this. What's your opinion? Is it okay? How should I do it? And she'll give you what you need to do. Because you'd be amazed at how many people are watching just to play gotcha. So cover your butt.
I sent everything through Jackie
Yes.
and Virginia and Terry, so.
Yes, I thought that was protocol, and if not, I think it's a great best management practice there to do that, so thank you,
Yeah,
John.
I would recommend that.
Okay. Where are they?
And just to clarify, that's one-way communication, right? So you're saying, here's a paper that could be of interest to, here's research findings related to what we're doing. And so we share that with everybody. As long as nobody, replies back, that's communication. But the one-way, here's information is
Right,
okay.
right, no reply all, that's the rule, like it just, okay. All right, so meetings, this isn't going to apply to you all. These are just kind of the basic rules that are out there. This is about setting meetings. If there was anything, you don't want to have a meeting at any place that would require a payment to get in, or someplace that's too small. These are just kind of basic rules that are out there. It's not really going to come up for you, but just for your education. Okay, so what does reasonable notice mean? It means that you have to give details about, you must say the time and the place of the meeting, if there's an agenda available, like we do for these meetings. And the notice is required about 7 days notice for a regular meeting, and then emergencies 24 to 72. This is also what happens if we don't have a quorum. You can discuss, but no voting takes place, right? If we're not meeting these requirements, then just no action being taken, right? No voting. Same thing that happens if we get to that position where we don't have a quorum. You can still have a meeting, you just can't vote on anything. So, okay. The meetings, we don't need verbatim transcripts. There's an example at the agenda for today. Jackie does an excellent job with the meetings and the minutes, and it's just a summary of what's occurred. And again, they're a public record, open to inspection, and they just need to be produced within a reasonable time. Like she had last month's minutes on the agenda for today, which is perfect. So this is where it gets into things that are going to come up for you. So yes, of course, you can socialize. We're not saying that you can never speak to each other. It's, again, just the magic language. Don't discuss things that are going to foreseeably come before you as part of your duties of this committee. Again, if you have anything that comes up where you have a concern, just please call me and we can talk about it. And Sunshine does not cover your conversations with staff. We just cannot be a conduit between you and to pass messages outside of this meeting. So like Virginia gave a perfect example, so thank you. That was great. Okay. And again, another thing that comes up for you a lot is other meetings, whether they're other advisory bodies or committees. I know there's a lot out there. Some of it is common sense, right? You can discuss other things. You can discuss things outside. Again, no COC topics, right? It's the same kind of idea here. no discussion or debate about something that would come before this board outside of this meeting. And I wanted to bring up here, this has come up in the past and it's not on my slides. You can speak with your alternates freely because you represent one vote together. So that is the one person here that you can debate outside and go and have lunch and those kinds of things because you were never going to be voting independently of each other, right? The alternate only votes when the voting member's not here. So that is kind of a nice exception. All right, so moving on. There is a code of ethics for all government employees. This also extends to voluntary members of advisory boards. It is found in Chapter 112 of Florida statutes. There are two types, those prohibiting conduct and those requiring disclosures. I just wanted to mention that there is a Florida Commission on Ethics, if you're not aware. They are available, they're wonderful. They have staff that you can call with questions. They'll either get back to you or they will talk to you in real time. I can also help you with any questions you have. If there is a serious situation that comes up and you need an official opinion, my opinion is not official. If you need something from the Commission of Ethics, there is a process for that. I think it's on their website of how to ask for an opinion in your specific situation. If you have any questions about that, you can call me and I can help you with that, or we can do it together. But that's just out there, just so you know. And again, ethical considerations are very personal to you and your connections, your life, your specific situation. A couple of statements about conflicts of interest. So there's a statute out there that talks about business. So if any of you have this come up again, doing business with one agency, this would be contracts, sales, leases, those kinds of things with Brevard County. The good thing for advisory board members is there is a process for waiver for this. So again, this comes up, give me a call, we'll figure it out. But it's an easier solution for advisory board members if it comes up for you. Okay, and then voting conflicts. We've had this come up quite a few times for this committee. Again, the key here is special private gain or loss. So this literally means your personal property, your personal business, if there's anything. This is not, we've had like city officials, they are not in conflict with voting on issues here because they are working in their official capacity for a project for their city. When it comes up and you have to declare a conflict is if, like we've had to come up with septic to sewer. When your property is in the zone, that might be a conflict because you might have a gain from that project. Let's see. So if possible, advance notice is great. I have done it at the last minute a couple of times, which is fine. We can handle it. We can also kind of cure it after, but if it's possible to have advance notice, that's wonderful. So review the agenda if there's something that's coming, especially when the project plan comes up, that's the big one. Again, call me, I'll help you fill out the form. So there's a couple of different rules, ways to fill out the form. If you don't want to participate in the discussion, you declare a conflict, and you don't speak on the topic. I would probably just flat recommend to do the second option because there might be a good discussion and you might have some information that really is helpful. We had this happen in January and it was great. She filled out the form, she was able to participate and she just didn't vote. So the form, I actually want to show you that because the form, I have copies if you all want any, but I will have it with me in case it comes up. It's pretty easy, honestly. It sounds scary, but it's not that bad. You just fill it out ahead of time, give it to Jackie, she includes it in the minutes, and we're good to go. Okay, so again, there's a guideline book out there. website for Florida Commission on Ethics. If you want those, the website and the numbers, my office number, and that's it. So if you have any questions generally or, yeah.
Do the sunshine law requirements on conversation, do they apply to the new emeritus roles?
Yes, yes.
Mr. Chair, a quick question. If, I would assume that the discussion participation also hits those who are non-voting? So
Yes.
we obviously would have to
Correct.
declare. And in the case of a voting member declaring and then not being able to vote, does that vote then move to the alternate, or is there
Yes.
no vote from that?
It moves to the alternate.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's a good, I don't think we've had that situation come up, but that would be, yeah, what would happen is it would move then.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I would really encourage the communication between the member and the alternate throughout, all the time, because you should be voting as a team. Yes.
And just on that, is that Lorraine being the chair and me being the alternate, we get together the night before, the day before the meeting, and have a conversation. Maybe we didn't have much to talk about, but just to check in with your chair.
Yes.
So that you are on the same page.
Yes. John?
Yes, I wanted to follow up on the sunshine and the emeritus again. So we're supposed to be providing some sort of context and history, but the committee members cannot send us, or should not be sending us email requests or phone calls, talking about things. I mean, like, I'll just stop it there. They shouldn't be contacting us to ask us about stuff in the plan. They should be asking staff or something like that.
Or asking
Is that correct?
Right, or here, in the open.
Yeah, but here is sometimes it's a very limited format, and the questions come up in the meantime, and then suddenly somebody says, I need to ask so-and-so this question, and he's already gone. You know, and so I'm just making sure everybody, if you contact me, I guess, and you say something, I'm gonna refer you to staff, or I'm not allowed to talk to you, or something like that.
Yeah.
All right?
Fred?
Just an interesting question. Because they can't vote, does that then allow you to discuss with them just as you would with your? No? Wow.
I would suggest running everything through Jackie and Virginia and Terry and having it as not just a personal conversation, but a conversation with the committee. And the materials will be distributed to everyone. Yes.
Yeah, so if you have historic, whatever type questions, right, we could send that to your emeritus in advance so they can think about it and be prepared to answer, but the two-way communication should be in the advertised public meeting.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to say, I forgot to say at the beginning, to welcome to all the new members. And I've been working with Sorrel for, I think, 3 years now, and it's very inspiring, so welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, Brandon?
Heather, we've had this discussion before too about keeping a record if you are posting things on social media. Do we
Right,
wanna
I
go over
didn't
that?
cover public records today because it doesn't come up, I don't think, a whole lot for like requests for you all. But yes, anything like that would be a public record that would be, that we need to, by law, you need to keep. Okay, so screenshot, I'm not sure what the process is
Yeah,
for
we've asked
that, but.
that, so if you are posting on social media, something that would be associated with this committee, you know, that would be voting or something along those lines, then you would need to just take a screenshot and then email it to us. So you can send it to Jackie or send it to Jackie and myself. And then we'll keep that if you want, or you have to keep it yourself, and then if anyone were to ask, you would produce that. So, but it's easiest just to send it our way so that we have quick access to it if we do need it.
And like I said, I didn't cover public records really at all.
To my knowledge, I don't know how many times committee members get public records requests, if at all. But if you did, I mean, the county attorney's office also handles public records, kind of the hub. All the departments also handle public records requests. So again, you could contact Natural Resources or county attorney's office if you have any requests for public records and you don't know what to do with it, because we can help you handle that. So, okay.
Thank you. Yeah, Brandon was up next. You're going to
Switch the agenda.
C and D.
We amended the agenda.
Okay.
The previous chair.
Okay.
Amended the agenda
Say the old chair.
at the request
We've been
of the
through
staff.
that already.
So I'm going to try, and of course, our historians probably know a lot more detail about it, but I'm going to try to sort of take us through multiple decades of Lagoon action very, very quickly to get us to where we are with the plan today, and, you know, why the content of the plan is what it is today. So seagrass is obviously the foundation of a healthy and productive lagoon, right? We had these immense 10,000s of acres of seagrass that supports over 70% of the recreational fisheries. They provide, you know, food and habitat, nursery areas for the abundant marine life that we have. They produce oxygen during the day and push that dissolved oxygen into the sediments. They control nutrients. They sequester nutrients. They stabilize the bottom, which controls turbidity, right? So there's just immense benefits of seagrass. And we had this seagrass-dominated community. And as the seagrass started to decline, so did the whole ecosystem. So, you know, for decades now, the goal has been to create conditions that were conducive to healthy seagrass, and then everything else healthy would follow. So going back to 1989, with the SWIM plan that was developed by the Water Management District, you know, at that time, they believed that the majority of the pollution sources, the worst sources, were mostly wastewater effluent, 40% of the problem, and stormwater, and tributary discharges, 60% of the problem. And they said, but this muck stuff, that could be critical, and we may need to remove it, right? Fast forward 20 years, well, actually, so following the 1989 SWIM plan, there was the Indian River Lagoon Act, which provided funding and direction to address the wastewater effluent. So we were discharging 50 million gallons of secondarily treated sewage a day into the lagoon, 50 million gallons a day. And so that was redirected. That stopped those daily discharges. We're not just, you know, discharging our effluent into the lagoon anymore, right? It's treated at the wastewater treatment plant and then put down into the groundwater or down in an injection well or used for irrigation water. And the county and many of the cities adopted stormwater utilities to address the 60% number, the stormwater discharges. So in 2009, the lagoon wasn't recovering as well as it should have been, and so EPA and DEP worked on total maximum daily loads, and they sort of focused on wastewater, stormwater, and agriculture. Since that time, most of the agriculture in the Brevard portion of the Indian River Lagoon has gone away. There's still a lot of agriculture in the southern part of the Indian River Lagoon. In 2012, the county partnered with all the municipalities to update the data and models that were used for developing the total maximum daily loads. During the intervening time, right, computer power had just changed incredibly. The amount of data that was available was significantly better. The computing power of models was much, much better. And so we developed a spatial iterative loading model. And one of the things that it did that was different than preceding, in addition to just updating the information and being more detailed, it differentiated the stormwater load from the groundwater load. And so when staff was directed to come up with the Save Our Indian River Lagoon plan, we knew that groundwater pollution was a problem, that contributions from groundwater was a significant part of the equation, but we didn't have good data on what was polluting our groundwater. So we had models, we had sort of best guesses. We looked at reclaimed water and septic systems, and we put monitoring systems and performance measurements into place to collect that data, during the life of this program to learn what we needed to do about cleaning up our groundwater. We also added restoration of natural filtration systems because we'd seen with the fisheries decline, right, the loss of oysters, the loss of clams, the loss of blue crabs and mullet, right, all these things that are ecosystem filters in the system that help provide resilience when there are shocks from major storm events. So I talked about modeling in 2012 being much more detailed, right? So rainfall has changed a lot over the years, right? So using the latest rainfall, taking into account what's raining down out of the sky and air deposition, both dry and wet pollution falling out of the sky. The basin boundaries, so the map on the right shows the area of land that drains to the lagoon. With all the various flood control projects, that boundary has changed over time. So updating those basin boundaries in the modeling. Land use development is constantly happening, so the land use is changing. BMPs are best management practices. The stormwater treatment that is happening with that development has advanced over time, so taking that into account. The soil hydrologic groups, USGS continues to improve their mapping of the soils. That controls how much of pollution moves through the soils, how much of it is treated in the soils. Stormwater runoff coefficients, those have improved through time as more studies have been done statewide on how much water, how much stormwater runs off different land uses, different soil types, different slopes, under different rainfall events, whether it's a nice light rain or a heavy downpour. And then this separation of this constant flow of groundwater to the lagoon with its nutrient load. So this is an example of separating stormwater runoff from that constant base flow of groundwater just at one USGS station. And the bottom of the graph, that's the white area, right? That's what's flowing down this tributary nonstop throughout the year. The blue spikes are the stormwater from the rain events that are on top of that. And so with this Purdue modeling, we were able to separate the stormwater flow from the base flow and then look at the times during the period of record when there weren't blue spikes, it was almost all gray. Look at the concentration of nutrients in the water at that time to determine how polluted the groundwater was. So this is taking that data and looking for its nitrogen across the top and phosphorus across the bottom pie charts. Then the three columns are the Banana River Lagoon, the Northern Indian River Lagoon, the Central Indian River Lagoon. You see the distribution of how much of the load is from rainfall versus that groundwater base flow versus atmospheric deposition. And then the purple sliver is the point sources. So the purple is what used to be 60% of the problem, right, until we addressed and redirected those wastewater flows. Sorry, not 60, 40% of the problem. So when the plan was developed in 2016, right, we knew some things. We knew more than we had known in the past, but we also had lots of questions still to go. We needed to take action immediately, right? Avoid analysis paralysis. So what do, right? So we picked projects that we felt pretty confident about. These are going to help, right? Put them in the plan. Then we conducted pilot projects to learn more. We measured the performance of those projects. We bring the results to the committee, and you all assess and revise the plan accordingly. Simultaneous to this, and not really the role of the committee, but certainly happening and informed by the discussion of the committee, are complementary policy changes. And we've worked with the county commission, the cities, and the state on many, many policy changes that are complementary to what we're doing in the SOAR plan. Terry already covered the ballot language, so I think I'll skip this. But it was written in a broad enough way that as we learn more from the performance monitoring data, we could amend the plan going forward with the oversight of the committee. So stormwater, we knew that was a problem. With the modeling that we did in 2012, it looks at every little sort of depression in our landscape that is collecting stormwater and separates those little tiny basins and then estimates how much stormwater load is coming out of there, how much groundwater load is coming out of there. And so, if you're going to put in a stormwater pond or a baffle box or whatever your best management practice is, the cost of that project is roughly similar, comparable, whether it's a heavy loading basin or a light loading basin, whether it's agriculture or rural or natural land, right? All these things make a difference in terms of how much load there is, but the cost of putting in the project is roughly the same. And so you want to target those basins that are contributing the most pollution to put in your best management practice. So instead of trying to treat 1,774 outlets of stormwater to the lagoon, right, we're focused on the worst couple hundred of them in the swirl plan. For septic load modeling, on the left, you see where we sort of started out with, well, the ones that are closest to the lagoon are probably the problem, right? And so that yellow was the priority area, and then as you move further away, those were less important, right? And then by 2018, we had conducted more intensive modeling using a state art inlet model that went in and looked at each parcel individually and looked at the soil conditions, the slope, all sorts of factors, distance from open water, to prioritize individual lots. And then we looked at clusters, like you see that in the sort of center right, cluster of hot septic. That's where our septic sewer priorities are. So we also installed groundwater wells throughout the county, 45 wells. We have 43 of them that are still in action. Thanks to the homeowners that let us do this. We thought it was only going to be a year or two, and now we're in over 6 years coming into their yard on a monthly basis. So a big shout out to those homeowners. So this is the first septic to sewer project where we set up monitoring 6.5 years ago. We've been collecting data monthly all this time, and we have finally converted that community from septic to sewer. And so most of this graph on the right, you see 3 different wells, homeowner wells in the community. And then the vertical lines on the right show the time that each of them actually connected to sewer. And so the blue one was the first to go, and you see the blue lot was the most variable throughout the 6 years. And after connection, you see the load drop down to the bottom of the chart, right? The orange one was next, and it was not quite as variable as the blue, but it certainly had peaks over time, and it has not had any peaks since connection. The green one was sort of mid-variability. It's the most recent to connect, and it is lower now than some of those earlier peaks. As we continue to get more data, we hope that it will clean up. It was interesting that all of these wells started to get cleaner as the subdivision started to connect. So even if this home wasn't connected yet, right, if its neighbors had connected already, we were beginning to see improvements in the groundwater. So the box and whisker plot on the left shows you the whole range of data pre-connection versus the little box and whisker on the right is post-connection. So you see not only is the average much lower, but the variability is tremendously lower. So these projects are working. Next, we guessed that nutrients in the reclaimed water coming out of the wastewater treatment plant going back for use as irrigation could be a problem. So we went to the DEP, we downloaded reports of what were the effluent concentrations from each wastewater treatment plant in the county, and that's the blue bars show you what is their average effluent concentration. Then we went to IFAS research on turf, on what is the amount of fertilizer that makes turf optimally happy, and it's 5 to 9 milligrams per liter. So that's the red line is at 6. So we figured, okay, so sod is going to be really happy at 6, and if you're putting down more than 9, it can't even use it, right? It's just soaking through into the groundwater and becoming part of the problem. So all the blue bars that are taller than the red line are things that needed to be improved. And so the two highest ones, Palm Bay and Titusville, were the first two projects included in the plan. And over the years, more of the projects, more of the wastewater treatment plants have been added to the plan. But let me show you the data for Titusville. Right, so similar to the last graph we went through, we got 3 homeowners that allowed us to collect data in their yards all this time, and the black vertical dotted line is when the work started at the Titusville plant to upgrade it to advanced treatment. The black line, the black vertical line, is when it was completed, and so you see very, very clearly that the concentration data, which used to be very high and variable, has gone to much, much cleaner post-upgrade. And you see similar information in the box and whisker chart on the left. So for muck, when we started, we had these side scan sonar images of the lagoon. The left 2 panels were from side scan sonar. The bounce back signal of that sonar looked like it might be muck. But we didn't actually know where the muck was in the lagoon. So the legislature funded researchers at Florida Tech to go look and verify where this muck was. So we picked a few projects that we had confirmed were muck, that we had local knowledge, we knew was muck. That was what was in the original plan. But then with years of additional field work conducted by Florida Tech, we found out that a lot of these bounce back signals that were thought might be muck were actually shell hash. It gives the same very similar bounce back signal because it has a similar water content in it. And so we were able to rule those out. And in addition to verifying with polls and samples and whatever where the muck really is, not all muck is the same. Some muck fluxes a lot more nutrients than other muck. And so we were able to prioritize those deposits, and the map on the right is where those priority projects are in the plan currently. Right, so this was just the research, and in addition to identifying and reprioritizing the project areas, we also added interstitial treatment while we got that muck gathered in a dredge management area to scrub as much nutrients out of the liquid as possible before it's returned to the lagoon, in addition to separating out the solids. So does muck removal work? So these are 2 different projects and 2 different ways to answer that question, right? So this is all about seagrass. Seagrass needs sunlight to grow. The 2 main things that are blocking light from penetrating to the bottom of the lagoon, to the seagrass beds, is turbidity and algal blooms. So the left graph is looking at turbidity pre and post dredging at Turkey Creek. And you see that the turbidity levels The orange period is during dredging. So that the average during dredging was the same as the average pre-dredging. So there was a lot of fear that dredging was going to create a lot of dust, a lot of chaos, and make things worse during dredging. That did not happen. We were able to put enough controls in place to prevent that from happening. And the post-dredge condition is much less turbid water. On the right, for the O'Galley project, this is looking at bloom levels. Bloom levels in the lagoon near in the multi-mile perimeter around this project, bloom levels before dredging, during dredging, and after dredging. So you see both turbidity and bloom levels diminish after dredging. All right, so we've got remove pollution, reduce pollution, remove pollution, restore, our natural filter feeders, and then respond, our 4 Rs. So we wanted to restore oysters. They're tolerant of more salinity changes than clams. That's why we started with oysters. And there were hardly any left in the lagoon. There were some down near Sebastian Inlet, up the Sebastian River, when we started back in 2014. And so we didn't know why. Was it just that they were overfished? Was it pollution? Was it salinity? Why were the oysters gone? So we partnered with the zoo and we created this oyster gardening program, and over 1,300 waterfront property owners volunteered to put oysters in little cages and hang them from their dock and see where the oysters survive. And we were amazed that oysters thrived nearly everywhere. Everywhere. So that was super exciting. So we took that information and we said, okay, we're going to take these oysters that have been growing in these cages, hanging under people's docks, and we're going to put them on, we're going to build these little oyster bars that will function as wave breaks to protect the shoreline, reduce erosion, reduce turbidity, filter the water. They keep up with sea level rise. The oyster bars grow in height as sea levels rise. And so we're going to build these oyster bars. Well, there's a big difference between growing oysters in a cage hung under your dock, right, near the surface of the water, where it's got good oxygen supply, it's got good water flow from wakes and waves, and it's caged so the predators can't get in there, right? Then when you put those poor little oysters out there on this bare reef on the bottom, there might not be oxygen, there might not be water flow, there are all these predators, right? And so we had a few projects that didn't do well, and we learned from building these little bars, some areas do better than others, and what to look for and how to pick those sites. And now, we have a few projects that aren't doing well, but the majority of our sites are doing very, very well. So after plan adoption, 2017 hurricane comes along, and there are sewage overflows. Well, sewage infrastructure, we had septic to sewer projects in the plan. We had sewage plant upgrades in the plan. We did not have fix the leaks, stop the overflows in the plan. At the time, the county had just adopted a $134 million bond issue to do a lot of lining of the pipes to eliminate leaks in the public collection system. And we thought that was going to fix the problem. It was funded by the utility, right? So the ratepayers who receive the sewer service, they're the ones paying to maintain the sewer pipes. That made sense. But nonetheless, there were these, when storms happen, water's leaking into the pipes, sewage is overflowing into the ecosystem. There was a huge demand for this program to do something about it. And so we talked to the utilities, and they explained, well, yeah, we're lining the publicly owned pipes, but in the private sector, everybody owns the pipe from their house out to the public right-of-way, to the connection to the public system. And those pipes have, homes that were developed in the 1950s and 60s. Those pipes are 50 to 70 years old, and oh, by the way, they were just cardboard covered with tar paper or clay, and they're broken, and rusty metal. And so not only do they leak in during flood events, but they could potentially be leaking out the rest of the year when the groundwater is lower than the pipe. And so the committee came up with the idea of doing smoke testing of the private lines to find out where those leaks are and to provide homeowner assistance for everybody that has those leaks to get them repaired. And the county commission, and this is county-wide, the county commission adopted language mandating that people make those repairs. So we provide funding to help them, but they have to do it. And like I said this morning, we're at 97%. So we've smoke tested about 50,000 homes in the county. So we found around 1,300 problems, and we've repaired 97% of those. So back to this groundwater monitoring data it's an amazing data set, and everybody in the state is really jealous that we have this now. I've gotten to talk about it at a number of statewide conferences, and people always like, can you send us our scope of work, and how much does it cost, and whatnot. So we started with a few wells in our natural areas so that we knew how clean the groundwater was supposed to be, right? So that's a little green bar. So that's what our groundwater should be. These are from wells in septic communities up and down the county. So you see that the concentration in the groundwater is much more polluted in the yards with septic systems. Here's yards with sewer service. So, why is a sewer service yard, yes, it's much cleaner than septic, yay, but why is it more polluted than a green natural community yard? Right? So maybe somewhere in that set of properties there was a leak we didn't find. We actually did not find any leaks at the properties that volunteered for this program. Probably this is fertilizer, it's pet waste, it's washing the car, it's what's coming off your driveway, your rooftop, it's the way that we live, right? This is the signal of housing instead of natural community. And then we went to sewer areas that were on reclaimed water. And here's what we found, right? So this confirmed for us that we really needed to upgrade those wastewater treatment plants. And so we've gone into the plan, we've added a lot more of those wastewater treatment plant upgrades into the plan. Now, it does take 4 houses on the blue sewer service area to produce enough wastewater to provide the irrigation to 1 purple house. So there is a significant net gain going from the red septic community to the blue or purple reclaimed water, right? When you do a conversion project, you get 3 people at the blue bar height and 1 person at the purple bar height. But we can do better because we can address the purple bar too. Then we took that data from that study. We know how many homes are on septic. We know how many homes are on sewer. We know how many homes are on reclaimed water. And we use that to take our previous modeling of how much of the load to the lagoon is in groundwater and divide that up into, well, how much of that groundwater load is from yards on septic, yards on sewer, yards on reclaimed water, right? And then the natural background distribution. So this gives us much better information on what are those major sources of pollution, how bad is each one. And then we can look at, well, what is the cost to reduce this load? What is the cost of the projects? And we can come up with a cost effectiveness, how much we want to invest in different project types in the plan. Another project type that's been added since the beginning of the plan is vegetation harvesting. So there's just go harvest the plants out of the stormwater pond. There's also grow plants on floating islands and then harvest the plants out of the stormwater pond, right? There are multiple ways that you can harvest vegetation out of the pond. Either way, you're letting the plants take up nutrients, and then you're removing plants from the system. So you're removing nutrients from the system, and you're doing it in a way that avoids use of herbicides, avoids killing the vegetation and letting it rot in place and release nutrients into the system. So we talk about this adaptive management approach. So the pie chart on the left is where we started, how the funds were distributed in the original 2016 plan versus on the right, the 2025 plan. So a couple things of note. So everything on the right, the yellow, orange, brown shade, those are all wastewater, different types of wastewater projects. The blue are different kinds of stormwater projects. The gray is muck removal and interstitial treatment. So you see a big shift from doing less muck removal, more wastewater treatment projects in the plan. And there's also way more slices of pie on the right because we've added these project types as we gain more information and learn about new opportunities, things that we could do. So we've been reporting, usually in the quarterly reports, we tell you how much pollution, how much nitrogen pollution has been reduced or removed on an annual basis. And the committee said, yeah, but it's cumulative. Can you do us a cumulative graph, right? So Terry worked this up. And so most of the projects in the lagoon, if you build a stormwater pond, it's not just stopping pollution this year, it's stopping pollution next year and the year after that and the year after that, right? As long as it's maintained, it's gonna function for decades. Same with once you connect somebody from septic to sewer, convert somebody from septic to sewer, you're stopping that load, not just this year, but next year, the year after that, the year after that. And so it's cumulative. So each year we count, well, what did we achieve in the previous years, and then add what did we accomplish this year. And so we're now at over 800,000. This year, 2025, we should exceed 1 million pounds of nitrogen reduction. And so you see the first few years, it was really slow ramping up. It was really hard to get these projects designed and permitted and bid for construction and break ground and get them completed, right? There's a lag time in seeing the progress. But, by 2021, now things are really picking up. So back to our algae bloom mapping. This is using the satellite imagery. Hopefully you're all receiving the weekly updates on bloom reports analyzed from satellite imagery. And so each line on this graph represents a different sublagoon: Mosquito Lagoon, North Indian River, Central Indian River, and Banana River Lagoon. And so the peaks on the left side, that was the 2016 fish kill. Then the next peak is the 2018 brown tide that just went on and on. It was awful. And then that highest peak in the middle of the graph, that was the Thanksgiving to Christmas 2020 fish kill that was, throughout a lot of central northern county in both the Indian River and the Banana River. And since that time, you see that the bloom levels have been much lower. They have not been long duration, right? Much shorter duration. So remember that last horrible peak there is right at the end of 2020. So this graph is seagrass data collected by the Water Management District. So each green bar represents the acres of seagrass mapped. They do that every other year. And you see that from the beginning of the chart in 1992 up to the peak there in 2009, seagrass was getting better, right? That was in response to not discharging 50 million gallons a day of partially treated sewage into the lagoon. Seagrass was getting better. But then we had the 2011 super bloom, the 2016 fish kill, the 2018 bloom, and that last lowest green bar, that's 2021, right after that 2020 worst bloom event. Since then, the seagrass has been expanding, right? So the next green bar is a little taller, and 2025, they'll be mapping again, so we'll have another green bar. The black line is, instead of mapping the area of seagrass, it's from swimming transects, right? So seagrass initially is growing in the shallowest water where it can handle dirtier water. It can still get sunlight through dirtier water. And so the cleaner the water gets, the further deeper out the seagrass can grow, so the longer the transect length. So the black dotted line is the length of transects that seagrass is growing. And you see it follows the same pattern as the green bars, but the district is collecting that data more frequently. So we can see from that we're on this nice uptrend at the end. Now, it's not just our projects. There's a lot of weather helping us out, but every day, every season that we have low blooms and seagrass recovery, we're increasing the capacity of the system to absorb nutrients and handle the next shock event better than when we were, at the
And the gray is density.
Yes. You want to say anything about,
Yeah, you
seagrass
can
density
just
has also been an
notice that
issue.
the density went down along with it all, and it's coming back up slightly, and that's really important, the density of the seagrass.
For control
Habitat,
of turbidity, habitat,
Getting oxygen down
forage.
into the sediment, so many things.
Yeah. Right, so this is just to kind of bring home this idea that, right, seagrasses, if you're swimming your little transect from the left out to the right, you expect seagrasses to recover first in the shallow water where sunlight can penetrate through not that much dirty water, right, to get to the bottom. And as you go to the right, to deeper and deeper water, the water has got to be clearer and clearer for that to happen. So the recovery that we're seeing is in these shallow areas, and to get the acres and acres of seagrass that we want in the system, we've got to have much, much cleaner water. So that means we've got a lot more work to do. So, the progress that we're seeing is great, but nobody should think that we need to, we can get lackadaisical about it and take the pedal off the metal, because to get to where we want to get, we got to be able to get sunlight penetrating through much deeper water.
On a regular basis.
So this last point is that we focused on the projects that are the most cost-effective first, right? We wanted to maximize return on investment, and so we did those projects first. As those are completed, the next best project costs more, right? We've done the low-hanging fruit. The next project costs more. So for septic remediation, the plan is funding upgrade of the worst 1,769 septic systems. There's a little over, just under $32 million to go after those worst systems. And so the green circle shows you that the cost effectiveness of going after those worst ones is just under $800 per pound of nitrogen removed. If we want to go after the next batch, sort of the mid-bad batch, right, that's the next row. So it takes almost 9,000 septic systems to achieve a similar load reduction, the column second from the right. So we get 40,000 pounds of reduction from those first 1,700 systems. We get 48,000 pounds of load reduction from the next 9,000 systems. And so, you have the cost of addressing 9,000 systems, but you have a similar load reduction benefit. So the cost effectiveness is much lower, $3,700 per pound. Then if you go for the rest, which is what the state rule has just required that we do, you have another 8,000 septic systems to go in the unincorporated county. There's another 40,000 in the incorporated areas. They're only responsible for 22, so half as much pollution, similar number of systems, but half as much pollution. And so the cost effectiveness of those is $7,000 a pound, right? And the cost to do all of those beyond what's already funded in the plan is on the order of $335 million. So this is just for septic. You could do the same exercise, and that's what the unfunded tables are in the appendix in the plan, right? We've done this for stormwater, we've done this for wastewater, we've done this for all the different project types. We know what the next projects would cost and how cost-effective they would be.
And you should all start to add up some of those numbers in the unfunded table.
Yes, billions of dollars.
Yeah.
So as I said way back when, at the same time that we've been doing these projects, we've also been working with the county commissions, the city councils, and the state on regulatory changes, right? And so now the wastewater treatment plants are required to upgrade to advanced wastewater treatment. So the improvements that we've seen in the reclaimed water, that's now mandatory. The stormwater rules have been updated in the statewide stormwater rule kicking into effect this year. Everybody's working on incorporating low-impact design and encouraging green infrastructure into their comprehensive plan and their code changes. Like I said, we've mandated that people maintain their lateral lines and repair when we smoke test and we find problems, that they must repair those. They also have to connect to sewer if sewer is provided. We voluntarily restrict the land application of biosolids, of sewage sludge on the agricultural lands. We've adopted the septic overlay, which the state has now replaced with their mandate that everyone in the Indian River Lagoon watershed has to either connect to sewer or upgrade to advanced septic. We regulate fertilizer. We installed retail signage at all the retail facilities, letting people know what those rules are. We have buffer requirements. All the communities along the lagoon have shoreline protection buffer requirements, landscaping requirements, and then we are preempted from regulating herbicides, but we are self-regulating, and we've had a whole panel discussion what all the communities are doing to self-regulate and reduce their reliance on herbicides.
Wait. Yeah, go ahead.
We're looking at the lagoon and then Brevard County too, in our minds. Some of us live in each or both. And what do we have? 600,000 people live in Brevard?
660, yeah.
650. Any idea on how many live in Indian River Lagoon? How many people?
I don't know that off the top of my head right now.
Is that the question, is within the protection plan?
Yeah.
That we could
Yeah,
get
versus
a
the
number
St.
on
John's
that.
Basin, yeah.
Yeah.
We could map that, but I don't know.
No, I'm just, my conversation here was a huge deal, and I'm just wondering how many people are not, plus those people that they have the same sewage problem that we're talking about here. And when we look at, I don't know, help me, Anthony, but for 100 homes, we're looking at, $10 million. Is that right? So, huge effect, everything we're talking about, if you look at all of Brevard County. And I don't have a clue how many percent, half the people are in Indian River Lagoon or not, but it's a huge deal, a huge price for Brevard County for us to straighten it up.
Yeah, and the St. John's River is also impaired, and the Basin Management Action Plan has just been drafted for the St. John's Middle Basin, so Lake Harney, Lake Monroe, so,
Well, and, I don't know now, but a year ago or 2 years ago, St. John's wasn't contributing anything. They quit contributing everything due to money in septics. So we've got land-wise, we've got half of it not included. I don't know about homes. Excuse me.
Well, that was quite an education.
I know I left out a lot of details, but I was trying to.
Yeah, but I think you can all see how much information is out there that you can talk to the public about. And this is what it's about, though.
And I would just reemphasize, how much things have changed over the 8 years, how much we have learned.
Yes.
And all of that change has come through this committee and the guidance of this committee, so.
And also the recognition by the Florida legislature, too, of passing bills and to make some of it happen just recently, within the last couple of years. So a lot happened.
I think you had a question.
Yeah, Virginia, I'm kind of curious about the individual septic approach and to what extent that you've been able to put that into, lack of a better term, a cumulative watershed. So if you have a place that's got a dozen septic tanks in a watershed, that's different than 1,000 in a watershed. Because from the perspective of being on the water myself and other fishermen, there are certain spots that remain terrible as far as water clarity. Down by Aquarina is one, and there's no higher density of houses there than elsewhere. It's actually less, as you mentioned. But there's something going on there, whether it's local, it's groundwater, and there's a couple other spots throughout the lagoon that are kind of the same. So
Yeah.
is there any way to kind of take this and look at a kind of a cumulative regional?
So we do look at it by the three, Mosquito Lagoon, North, Central, and Banana River. For the basin management action plans, they break it up further into a few different zones in each of those. There are also some seagrass segments, so we could look at the data by the water management district seagrass segments, but we haven't looked at the loading at that level. But we have at the zone level, which is, I guess, breaks the county up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right, about 10 zones.
Yeah, there are the water body identification number areas, and those even break it down further
Yeah.
into tributaries and everything else. So there's a lot of information out there.
Yeah, what are there, like 20 of those WIBIDs?
No, more than that. When you include all the tributaries and all of there.
Oh, yeah, if you go in.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's a lot of,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of data there, too.
Yes.
So Virginia, great job with the fire hose, handling that. I'm thinking about the graph you showed that showed the pie graph of here's what the plan was originally, here's how it changed. See if I can phrase this question. In terms of the function of this committee and the role and the way things work with those recommendations, can you, I understand that you will be coming to us with, here's suggestions, here's approval plan, here's information for you to evaluate and make decisions about, or give you feedback that we can pass on to the commission. And can you give us a little sense of how that really works, kind of from a process standpoint? We see subjects on a timeline for the year.
Yeah.
But how does it really work in terms of what you need from us?
So sort of throughout the year, as we get performance data on projects, we will present that data, or we'll have the field people, third-party field people that collected the data, present that to the committee, so you know how these projects are doing. And then when we get new project requests from the community, you'll have that information already, uploaded to consider those project requests.
So you frame it for us and help educate us along the way in terms of what you're really asking.
Right, and you'll get it in public comments as well, right?
Okay.
You'll get it.
Okay, that sounds
But
interesting.
yes.
Thank
Let
you.
us know if you're not getting what you feel you need.
Thank you, that was fabulous. I saw basically every slide that represented a conversation or discussion that we'd had previously, so brilliant work, everybody worked on that, I'm sure it wasn't just you. I love the adaptive management. I think we need to use that terminology much more frequently, or at least refer to that consistently as things have changed, because I know some of our public comment that was just mentioned definitely revolved around adaptation to what we know versus what we knew. So great work. Thank you so much. It was fabulous.
Go ahead, Fred.
Two quick ones. I think when I looked at the numbers, that the actual dollars set for original muck removal remained the same just because of the growth.
Very
So it's
similar.
200 and something million or something like that. And secondarily, can we get a copy of that in PowerPoint to
Yes.
use? That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be excellent to have.
Okay.
That was great.
Oh.
Yeah, it's good. The whole PowerPoint? Is that what you're asking for, Fred, or just that slide?
Oh, no, the whole thing. I thought it was great.
Good, yep, as well.
So, fantastic job, thank you. I'm sure they'll spawn the next series of questions. I had a question about, we're this county and we have a fund. Can we compare ourselves to what Indian River County, St. Lucie County, and Volusia County are doing as well? Make sure there's not gaps or overlaps, we're learning best practices, or are we setting the best practice?
Yeah, a little of each. So the state basin management action plans require everybody to do their part. And Volusia County has a reasonable assurance plan instead of a basin management action plan, but it's similar in content. And so everybody is doing the projects that they need to meet the regulatory targets for the lagoon. We're the only ones with a half-cent sales tax dedicated to the lagoon. There is another county that has a half-cent sales tax that is split between lagoon projects and transportation infrastructure. A couple communities tried to do a half-cent for the lagoon and failed. And so we are setting the bar, but the others are doing their part.
Yeah, I think it's really twofold, threefold. One, we can learn from others, they can learn from us. I think we deserve a pat on the back for you and staff and the last decade of work here. But also, the magic dividing line of turbidity is not going to divide right at Sebastian Inlet. Yeah, that which happens, 15 meters south is going to be just as impactful as 15 meters north of there. So I think it'd be very interesting to see those overlaps or see comparable. Do they even measure in the same ways? Are they tackling it in the same manner? Can you see consistent results to advertise that we're doing a great job, but also, there's impact not just from our citizens in our community, but there's our neighbors have impact on us as well, too.
Well, we do have a unique situation here with residence time and the fact that, we're dependent upon Sebastian Inlet for our for exchange of water, and it's way down there. And so, we've got a huge residence time here.
Yeah, that's what I think would be really interesting to compare and contrast Indian River County to Brevard County, and there maybe not, but maybe there might be a lot of corollaries and
some.
Yeah, I think the flows are going to change, obviously, but
The other thing, the National Estuary Program, they collect the projects done by everybody and report that as well. So there are multiple basin management action plans and the reassurance plan in Volusia, but one-stop shopping with the National Estuary Program. You can see what our neighbors are doing.
That's
Is that it?
Yeah, I wanted to comment on your muck question. It's just a comment. Although you said that the original amount of muck, or the money in the right-hand pie graph up there is much larger, and the original amount of muck was, the money's the same. The muck projects that were estimated costs back in 2016 have gone tremendously up in expense. And so over time, we have had to cut out some of the muck projects to help fund other kinds of things.
Thanks.
And that was a hard wrestled committee discussion here back a few years ago.
Yeah, so the muck projects have suffered from inflation, just like all the other projects.
I guess that since the costs are rising in relation to the benefits on the septic to sewer, that there might be an increase in focus on the muck going forward?
No, that's a policy decision. But yeah, the committee could definitely
Reach out
make
to your
recommendations.
Don, I got a question for Virginia about the stormwater slides. Again, great presentation, staff, everybody who put that together, and wonderfully executed. On the stormwater slides, on the gray water, on the reuse water, that bar, we were talking a little bit about that. Can you just review that a little bit about how that's being changed and adjusted from the treatment plant, going to the homes, to the homeowners, and then how that's reducing that stormwater as it goes into Lagoon? And then in the plan, I was looking for any projects, a lot of baffle box projects were in there. Residential impacts of reducing stormwater at the home. Are there any projects about the homeowners getting the stormwater to be more residence time on the property, rain barrels, bioswales and things of that nature to promote that as well? Is that in there anywhere?
About this one?
One back, I believe. The purple bar, the reclaimed. So that is being reduced
Yeah,
through the treatment plants,
Right.
through better practices.
Right, we do more treatment at the wastewater treatment plant. So what goes out to people's homes as irrigation water is cleaner, right? It's below that orange line, right? So that sod should be able to absorb most of those nutrients rather than letting it soak through into the groundwater and move out through tributaries to the lagoon. There's a lot of overwatering too, and so a lot of that, especially the reuse water is free. And so there's no financial restraint on property owners to be conservative with their use. And so you see people watering the sidewalks and the street and, just
The
watering.
dirt off their driveway.
Too much. And so that becomes stormwater that flows directly into the lagoon, right? So cleaning up the purple bar, right, will improve both stormwater and groundwater, like you were saying.
Great, great. I guess it's just, I saw you give a presentation a while back on the actual amount of nitrogen and nutrients inside of that purple bar, and it was just something that really was not, something that I didn't understand until I saw the numbers. And I just want to kind of ask how that's going on getting those numbers down for the nutrient content of that reclaimed water. Is there a numerical value in here somewhere that we can kind of look at that?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a numerical value for each project, and you can add those up for all the funded ones and compare that to the overall in the plan, which is around 1 million pounds.
Okay. I'll do some math.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're ready for?
Ready for Brandon, who is going to show you what's on the website that sort of backs up a lot of this, which is why I asked to go before Brandon.
So just to give you an idea of how to get to a lot of the resource material that we have online. So we've put as much as we can up there to try to be as transparent as possible. So as we mentioned before, we have recordings from our meetings, presentations, things like that. And a lot of the documents that we've discussed are on the website as well, available to the public and to you if you ever need to access them. So you can go to the Brevard County website, brevardfl.gov, and look for the manatee there. That gets you to the Save Our Lagoon, or if you just type in brevardfl.gov/Save Our Lagoon, that'll get you to the Sorrel website. And so on the front page, there's a lot of, links to some of these other pages that are also on the side here, so you can get to the project plan and the Citizen Oversight Committee. It kind of gives a little overview. There's announcements that will update with as projects progress and things happen. We can put little news snippets out there. One thing, you can subscribe to our newsletter or two. That's on the front, and we have it elsewhere on the site as well. So we put out a monthly newsletter to anyone who signs up for that, just going over progress and usually highlighting different aspects of the plan and progress that's going on. Then we have a map section, but the most used parts of that map section are accessible on our homepage as well. So our we have a general story map that kind of gives an overview of a lot of the things going on in the plan, and then we have our project-specific story map that shows where all the projects are and how much pollution they're removing, and we'll get into those when we get into the map section. And the meetings are also always listed on there, so we have our upcoming meetings listed on the bottom of the page there, and people can go to the calendar there. There's also a calendar button here. So the calendar one is the only one where you lose the little navigation bar on the side, just so you know. But it will show our meetings on there, and we don't put too many other things on there unless we're having a special event, like we had our 100th celebration that went on the calendar. But it is restricted to things that the committee is doing and that we're doing for the public. So we can go back to the homepage there. The Citizen Oversight Committee, so that has various documents that you can access. All right, gives the public the general idea of where and when the meetings are and how they can participate, and how, if they want to watch online, it gives access to those 3 different ways. So they can watch on Space Coast Government TV, through our Facebook page, it's live streamed, and it's also live streamed on YouTube. So we're broadcasting right now on those 3 different sources. The documents, the agendas, that's actually a different page, because they put the agendas for all the advisory boards onto one page on the county website. So it used to be separate, but they switched that formatting a couple years ago. And so now it's a little more challenging to get to ours, because you have to scroll through all this to get down to the Save Our Lagoon. Yeah. But all the agendas are on there. So you can go back. So if you want to look at anything we've discussed in the past and look at minutes in that. The other documents will show up on our page itself. You don't have to go to another page, but and the agendas, as noted here, before 2018, we do not have those listed on the website, and that is due to ADA compliance. So one of the things that we have to be very careful of, and sometimes restricts us from what can go on the website, is making sure that the documents meet the Section 508 requirements of the American Disabilities Act, so that anyone who's using a screen reader can be able to read those documents. And we were not required to do this, and we should have been doing this, but it wasn't required on our website until August of 2018, and everything past that had to be ADA compliant. So the documents before that, it would have taken a lot of staff time and work to make them compliant. So it was decided that we would just put up on there, if anyone needs one of those older agendas, they can just email us and then we can send it to them directly, instead of having to go through all that trouble to make it compliant to put on the website. The audit reports, so we get an annual audit. Those are all listed here on the website that you can go through and look at those. And those are one of the few that we have made an exception for, because the format that we get it from the auditing agency, they do not have it in an ADA format. And again, it's one that is very difficult to get into an ADA format, but we have a special request this document if you need it in Section 508 format in ADA. But we felt it was important to get those on the website, so we made exclusion for those, to list those without being compliant. The progress reports are all in there, so that progress report that's in your agenda, we break that out separately so that people can look at just the progress if they want to, and those go back. Financial reports, we used to do them monthly. We switched to a quarterly report back in August of 2019. So you'll see those quarterly reports on there now, but the monthly ones are on there as well. And then the rules, bylaws, and ordinances, so it was in your orientation packet, but you can also access those on our website if you ever need to pull those up in an electronic format. And then we have the committee members all listed. We do have this in a collapsible table, but it was advised that we have it open instead of collapsed like these ones, because that way Google can scroll through and find these things. If it's collapsed, it doesn't mark those. So we have all the information on there, ways that people can contact you, as well as the role that you play and who selected you and what year you were put onto the committee. Right. And then we have our grants page, and we break that up into the homeowner grants and the project funding applications. So I'm going to start with the project funding applications first, just because that's a little shorter. So that is the mechanism that the municipalities, NGOs, and anyone looking to apply for SORL funding can do. We open that once a year. Typically, it opens up in August and closes towards the end of September, beginning of October. And so the information that anyone needs to apply is all on here. I'm not going to go through all the different application types and processes, but that is all on there, as well as the different project types that we cover. And then the homeowner grants. So this is the grants that cover the septic upgrades, septic to sewer, and those private sewer laterals that were found broken during smoke testing, or if they find them broken on their own through their own testing. So expanding those out just sort of gives the common questions that people ask and goes through the application process for each of those types of grant programs. And then onto our maps page. The maps page, as I mentioned, gives you a lot of different maps. So the top ones were highlighted in the front, but there are additional maps that are not on that home page that are also on here that people can access. Anything from looking at where baffle boxes are throughout the county to our manatee field guide and lagoon recreation guide. Seagrass mapping tool that we use to prioritize what areas would be good if people are looking to do seagrass mapping projects. We have the algae bloom reports that we do weekly. And then the septic overlay map that was initially used when we were determining who needed septic upgrades, but that has since changed, so, but we kept that on there. But the two that are the probably most used are the general Save Our Lagoon overview map, and just an FYI, a lot of people, want to click the pictures because people are used to clicking pictures of things. Because of ADA requirements, we don't have the pictures as clickable links on the site, so they have to actually go down and click down below. So that'll open up a new tab to give you what we refer to as our story map format. So you kind of scroll through and it tells the story of what's going on with the lagoon. So it goes through all of the different statistics, how we select projects, how pollution affects the lagoon. It gives our overview here. And spent progress, all of these various things. So it breaks down all the different projects throughout into the different project types. And we update that on a quarterly basis. So every time we get the quarterly progress report, we'll update all of those numbers throughout that story map. But there's a lot of information in there, kind of repeating a lot of what Virginia had mentioned.
I'm going to answer your next question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and I skipped one here. So the home page, is here, but the project plan page, that has the documents about, gives the project plan itself, performance table that we talked about that we update quarterly. So you can access that on the project plan page. Again, that ordinance, and then sort of a project timeline process document that tells people how we go through, selecting the projects and things. That's also where we keep a dashboard with that progress. So we'll give you the amount of projects complete, a summary of the funds, where they are as far as in progress or collected, and the nitrogen removal that is underway, completed, and projected for the plan. So you can look at those, and then those tables for the funding that Virginia showed before. This is the yearly breakdown and how it changed every year, if you want to dive into more detail there. And you'll notice a lot of the pictures all have to have a long description, and that's one of those ADA requirements. And then we have some additional resources that we've collected over the time that we thought people might be interested in, give some additional facts. These were from Sea Grant, and then our oyster suitability that Virginia talked about. All right. And then, so back to that maps, here's that other one that is probably the most useful to the members of the public, and this is our project story map. So it outlines every project in the plan, where they all are. The size of the box tells you how much pollution it's removing based on the size there. And then they can break it down into the different project types, so you can look and see where each of the oyster projects are located. And when you click on the dots, they give you more information on some of those. Septic upgrade grants, so this is, I'm assuming, one of the most used tabs on this site, because this is where the public can find out and where our staff can easily look up if they need to, how much pollution a property loads on the lagoon. So they can type their address in, it'll zoom them into the property, and you can see by the color how much it loads. So, and clicking on that property then gives you the amount that it loads and the amount of eligibility they have to upgrade.
For funding.
Yeah, for funding. So, this is the amount that we can offer for funding based on the loading that's coming from that property. Then we have the septic to sewer conversion areas. So all of those green, yellow, purple outlines are different areas that there are planned septic to sewer projects. And one thing just to note, we cannot offer septic upgrade grants within those areas because we don't want to double fund those properties. So if they're slated to get a sewer connection later, we cannot give them money for a septic upgrade, even if they are required to get one, due to failure of their system.
Well, does that mean that they get the money from you? You've got state money before to go in the same place. Does that mean that's going to stop?
We can't double fund. So the state money for septic upgrades, we've used that in areas that are outside of those outlined areas.
Well, now
Areas that are,
but you've got money from state on the inside. Sure.
We have state money for septic to sewer.
Yes.
So we
Yes,
help
that's
fund
what-
them for their sewer connection.
Yes.
What he's saying is that the same property cannot get money to upgrade their septic and connect to sewer.
Okay.
It's one or the other, it's not both.
yeah.
Okay, but the
So if their sewer connection is, 3 years from now, and their septic system is failing now, they call us, they want money now, they may
Oh,
call
okay.
you, this, being very unhappy that they're gonna have to spend money to fix their problem.
But the septic to sewer, you're
They
using both of them?
will get funded
Yeah.
for
Both
septic
of
sewer.
them. That's what I
Yeah.
meant. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the septic to sewer projects, they have a pot of money
No.
for that.
Yeah.
And then whatever is left after construction gets divided equally among the homeowners to help
Yeah.
offset their costs.
Yeah, I'm straight.
Yep. Good questions. And then the septic to sewer quick connects. So this is areas where they already have sewer lines existing and the homeowners, for whatever reason, did not connect in the past. And so we have funding available for those homeowners to be able to then abandon their septic tank and connect to that existing sewer line. The reclaimed water areas, so this kind of outlines all those different areas throughout the county that are on reclaimed water. And stormwater tab, that'll show you all the stormwater projects that are happening, as well as the basins and how they're broken up throughout there. Our muck removal projects, those are those dots you saw in Virginia's presentation, showing all the different areas. And when you zoom in, you can get into actual detail of what areas that covers. Then the leaky sewer lateral maps. So these are the areas, showing where we've done the smoke testing.
Clarity.
And then this is our completed projects map. So all of those red dots throughout there are all the projects that have been completed so far throughout the plan. And you can zoom in, click on dots, and it'll give you details on each of them. So that's our project story map, and like I said, you can get a lot of information from that area. Now, under the, we went over the homeowner grants section there, but we felt people might not know to go there directly, so we set up some tabs specifically for the sewer septic upgrades and those private sewer laterals, so that people, if they click on those, it'll, navigate them. When they apply for it, it gets them to that grant page. But it gives that background on some of the things, such as estimated costs and who they can contact if they need to find out if sewer is available. We also give updates as we hear about them as far as progress goes on those septic to sewer projects. And the septic system upgrades, again, some background information. They can get to that application clicking there, and to try to help inform the homeowners about who is available. So anyone who is licensed to install septic systems in the county is listed on this page, and it gives them a kind of background on how many they've completed with our program, what type of unit that they install, and the average cost that we have seen with those projects. And we can't recommend any certain one, so we just kind of put this out there for the general information, and we recommend that the public gets multiple quotes. And then goes through some FAQs on there as well. The private sewer laterals, again, just giving that background information and then a link to that application page. And here is probably the page you might find the most informative for your purposes and getting up to speed on some of the things that have happened in the past. So we have videos on various things. So you can look at all of the previous meetings on here. If there's a certain meeting you wanted to look up, they're all listed back to when we first started recording them. The initial meeting wasn't recorded. And then we also, with the help of John Windsor, he went through and made a sheet for us breaking down every presentation that had been done on each of those meetings. So instead of trying to remember, when did this presentation happen, you can go down, and we broke them up into categories. So if you were looking for some of the monitoring data that we've talked about, you can scroll through there and find what you're looking for. If you want something on muck, it's there, outreach, the project plan itself, research, general research, septic to sewer, stormwater. So we have breakdowns on all of those. The habitat one, that'll be anything that's plant or animal related. So whether it's, otters or seagrass, we'll talk about those in there. And then there's our project information videos. So these are the videos that we do when we go out to an existing project. We will film that project, get interviews with the people conducting the project, and we put those up on our YouTube and social media sites, so on Facebook, and those are archived there. And you can also access them here. This will take you to the YouTube page, and you'll see playlists when you get to the YouTube page if you want to, go into the different topics there. And then we also have the My Lagoon story, which is each of the committee members, and we've done 2 of the new members so far. That was in your welcome packet, just asking you to coordinate with me to set up some filming. And so for those who haven't reached out to me yet, you just kind of let me know where and when you have availability. So give me several dates that you might be available, or if there's a certain day of the week, and then we can reach out to our videographer, find out what his availability is, and then set up to film with you. And it's pretty painless. We kind of give you the questions that we go over beforehand so you can think about it, and Fred and Deb have already completed theirs, so I think they can tell you. We try to make it as easy as possible. And our video crew is very good at editing, so don't worry if you're not good on camera, they'll make you look good. All right? Because I know some people get a little nervous on camera, but we can do as many takes as we need, and they'll edit it to make you look great. But yeah, we like to get those up there, and those are also linked on the Citizen Oversight Committee page. All right, so you'll see anyone who's done one so far, we have those up on there with the video. So Fred and Deb's are in editing right now. Once they're completed, we'll show them here at the meeting. And same with our project videos, always get shown at the meeting before they go up online. And then we'll put those on the page here. We also ask for bios, and in your application you filled out a short bio that we use on the website. However, the one thing that is not included with your application are pictures, so I do need you to email me your picture so that we can put that into the bio, and just so people can know what you look like too. And that is our website overview. So, any questions?
Yeah, we're kind of running close on time here, so we if you could just move on and.
Yep.
Yeah, we can. We still got a few things to do yet.
All right. So next up is 2 of the new videos. So just to give you a little background on the first video we'll be showing, it's one of our community garden projects. So the Lagoon Loyal program, that's one of our outreach programs that we do with the public to give them ways they can reduce pollution around their homes and businesses. And as a way to try to increase engagement with that and get people doing more activities, we held a community competition where the people could designate themselves in a community that they live in, and the most actions that were accomplished in those communities, we picked the top 3 communities to receive a community garden. They could choose between a pollinator garden, a shoreline buffer, or a pond floating vegetative garden, stormwater pond garden. And the one we're about to see was a community in Rockledge. They did not have a common area in their community that we could install a garden, so they opted to put their community garden to work at a local community center in Rockledge. So we'll show that video. The Save Our Indian River Lagoon program started a community involvement program called Lagoon Loyal, where we give residents different actions they can do to add to the projects that we're already doing to help the lagoon. We've had a lot of great community involvement in this program, and we wanted to try to encourage more. So this summer we held a contest to see which communities could do the most actions to help the lagoon during the month of August. So we had 58 different communities that participated in the competition, and they completed over 320 actions altogether. The top 3 communities that completed the most actions were then chosen to receive a pollution-reducing garden feature for their community. One of our winners, the community of River Groves in Rockledge, selected to install a pollinator garden at the Frank T. Forrester Recreation Center.
We're here in Rockledge installing a native butterfly garden in a bed that used to be sod. We removed all the sod and we're planting native plants in place of it. We have a combination of plants ranging from shrubs to wildflowers, everything from firebush, Bahama cassia. We have milkweeds in there, we have wild petunias, twin flowers, a lot of host plants, and we also have nectar sources for the butterflies. So some of those hosts include the twin flower and the milkweed, and some of the sources of nectar would be like your red sage, lyre-leaf sage, coreopsis, things like that.
Garden features like this one can help the lagoon because they're an area where stormwater runoff from hard areas like sidewalks and building roofs can drain into, and the plants in those gardens then help remove the harmful nitrogen and phosphorus pollution that can feed algae blooms.
All the plants in this design are Florida native plants, and they're also native to our ecoregion. So we try to think about the area that we're designing for when we're designing and what would naturally occur, look aesthetically pleasing, and how we can arrange those in a way that would make it look like a nice garden. There's a lot of benefits of using native plants. One being that you're using less water, you're using less fertilizer, so those are great benefits for the lagoon. Other reasons is they support our native pollinators. So these plants evolved with our pollinators, so to speak, so our pollinators know what to look for and how to gravitate towards these native plants.
There's other actions you can do around your home besides installing garden features. You can reduce or eliminate your use of herbicide and fertilizer, and make sure that you're not overwatering your lawn and that your sprinkler heads are pointed away from all the hard surfaces so they don't add to the stormwater runoff. Visit lagoonloyal.com to find out more ways you can join all of us to get to a healthier lagoon faster. And the landscapers who were working on that project, they will be presenting actually at the Florida Friendly Landscaping Seminar tomorrow. So our staff will be there on site with a table, but they have a presentation on selecting natives. And so. Right. And then the second video that we have, this was that shoreline improvement in Titusville, and it's a multi-phase project, and Virginia talked a little bit about that, but we'll let the video tell you a little more. Today we're installing wave attenuation devices, or WADs, along the causeway of the Max Brewer Bridge in Titusville.
Prevailing winds cause erosion, and wave attenuation devices decrease wave energy. These WADs in particular decrease wave energy up to 92%. You'll see them in high energy situations with 2 or 3 foot waves crashing into them, and right behind them it'll be calm. It's really important for the lagoon. It protects from coastal erosion, and it protects from critical habitat getting washed away during storms and high wind events. The WAD is a 3-sided concrete pyramid with holes in them, and they're set up in a row. And each row has 2 WADs that kind of fit together. Wave energy will hit the base of the WAD and then get dissipated through the holes. When it goes around the sides, it hits another WAD, and that's why they're offset. And the unique thing about the WAD is that some wave energy does push through In a lot of our projects, it's coastline building, where we've lost a lot of coastline. These will actually allow sediment to be transferred through them, and that's kind of what we're looking for. So this project is one of the first multi-trophic projects in the state of Florida, and definitely the largest, so that it encompasses different environments and habitat restorations. The WADs protect the shoreline, and then behind the WADs, we'll be able to replant seagrass. And the Indian River Lagoon has lost a large percentage of their seagrass. We're going to plant about 5 acres of seagrass behind the WADs. We're then going to drone drop about 1 million clams into the grass, and they have kind of a symbiotic relationship and help each other thrive.
In addition to the WADs, we're going to stabilize the shoreline by doing plantings from the top of the shoreline all the way into the water. There's over 10,000 plantings over 1,900 linear feet of shoreline. Protection of the causeway enhances the ecotourism of the surrounding community. It also provides fish habitat and it restores the shoreline.
One of the reasons we selected this site is it's an important nursery ground for horseshoe crabs, and at one point they counted over 55,000 horseshoe crabs spawning along the shore.
This project is very different because it has many stakeholders. It's coming from the Save Our Indian River Lagoon, which is covering the plantings in the shoreline, a portion of them. There's also the Department of Environmental Protection, Resiliency Program, the St. John's Water Management District, Florida Inland Navigation District, FPNL, Tourism Development Council, and the Florida Wildlife Commission.
So this project incorporates a lot of different elements to help benefit the Indian River Lagoon. And you can actually do the same thing around your home by planting native plants in your landscaping, which reduces the need for fertilizer and for excess irrigation. And combining that with things like blowing your grass clippings back into your lawn so they don't wash into the storm drains and become muck, you can do several different activities to help benefit the lagoon. Find out how you can join us in getting to a healthier lagoon faster by learning tips and tricks at lagoonloyal.com.
Thanks. Yeah, we need to move on, so let's just move on and to old business, and we don't have any old business. Do we need to vote on this, these things? No. Okay, no new business. And then to general public comments, I have one card for Craig Wallace. Just push that, right?
Good morning. Craig Wallace with the Brevard Indian River Lagoon Coalition. It's so great to see this table really full again, with a lot of new faces. I've attended these committee meetings just about since the beginning. I find them very, very well informational and a lot of good discussion going on, and really look forward to hearing all of your comments as we go through the process. I'm here today. I'm just going to give you a raw promotional announcement. We're doing, it was on the list of programs that Virginia mentioned. On April 4th, Friday night in O'Galley, we're calling it an Arts in the Lagoon event. Basically what we're trying to do is educate the public is our primary goal. But what we're trying to do is bring a different audience into this session. We've done in the past, we call straight talk events, which is basically informational stuff. We have speakers, and then we have a question and answer period. This is going to be a little different. We're trying to engage more families that might come with, that might bring their kids and come to these events that wouldn't come to a straight talk event. So we hope to get a good showing for this. But I think it's important that you all, if you can, come to this event. I've got announcement cards here just so you can remember it, but I know a lot of you have already planning on attending. But so we'll have, I think, about a dozen booths, information booths for, the staff will be there, as well as other environmental groups, Marine Resource Council and Keep Brevard Beautiful, and all of the organizations that you see at a lot of these events, but so that's our way of educating the public at this event where they can come and mill around. And then we're also having entertainment, so we're having a couple bands playing in the band shell at Hill Galley, as well as there's several arts events going on there. So we're hoping to draw people that, that would come for an arts event that probably wouldn't come to a Lagoon Straight Talk event. So that's our goal, and we're going to test this out. It's the first time we've ever done this, so we'll see how it works out. But we really encourage you all to come and join in the festivities. We do, if you're interested, we do have reserved seating. The O'Galley Band Shell is just basically grass to sit on. So if you'd like to sit on the seating that we're providing, you can go to our website, helpthelagoon.org, and you can find you can register for the seating there. And you also get one of these cool shirts, which we had done. There's a local artist that they're painting that we've adapted to the shirts. So welcome. Thank you for your time. And if anybody wants these, I'll go ahead and pass them around.
Yes.
Do you recall the artist's name who did the work for the T-shirt?
Yes. It's on the shirt. I'll read it. It's Britt Pigeon.
Britt Pigeon?
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. That's the only card I have. Any other public comments? Oh, thanks. Just final comments from the committee members. Anybody? This was a lot. Just know that just accept the fact that it's going to take you a year to really learn this process. Just accept that, and it'll relieve your mind a little bit. Thank you all very much. A motion to adjourn the meeting.
No, you can't. From now
Okay,
on.
thanks.
For both, right?
No, we don't have to vote on it. Thanks.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.